One Dawon Ha seemed like your average 18-year-old student, except for one thing: he absolutely hated video games, but ironically, he was always forced to play them. As an easy target for bullies, he was stuck endlessly grinding on other people's gaming accounts, and when things went wrong, they used it to mock him even more. He did not even enjoy the games, he was just trapped doing it while juggling 8 different phones at once. A popular girl named Erin Ju, who was both popular and pretty, suddenly started talking to him. She actually played one of the games he was grinding. After trying to offer her some gameplay advice, he was stunned when she casually said his name as if she actually knew him, but while getting totally distracted by her, he ended up dying in one of the games, and this was no minor death either. He lost a super rare item. Unfortunately, that account belonged to a ruthless bully named Xiao Yu, who did not take the loss well, even when Dawon offered to replace it with items from his own stash. Xiao Yu decided to beat him up anyway. To make things worse, Xiao Yu gave him a brutal ultimatum: retrieve the Fire King's greatsword from the Game Roast RPG within a week, or face another humiliating beatdown. The massive twist: Dawon was secretly a massive fan of gaming. He just hated being used as someone else's puppet. On his personal accounts, though, he was an absolute beast. Turns out he was once max level in Roast RPG, but a major update suddenly doubled the level cap and made drop rates complete trash unless players paid real cash. So Dawon grinded endlessly for 6 days straight, obtaining nothing but worthless garbage from the toughest bosses. Just when it felt like all hope was gone, powerful high-level players swooped in, instantly one-shotting the boss he struggled with and invited him into their party. Riding their success, Dawon finally managed to score not just the Fire King's sword, but also an even more powerful weapon, the Fire God's greatsword. He handed the better sword to his party leader out of pure respect. With the mission cleared, he finally logged off to rest. But talk about working yourself to death. He collapsed from sheer fatigue and starvation. Next thing he knew, everything went pitch black. A strange, game-like screen appeared, assigning him the title Powerless Game Shuttle and dropping him into a new world by the system admin's choice. Everything suddenly shifted. Talk about a crazy second chance. Dawon found himself reliving the day he met Erin Ju. But this time, everything was different. A status screen appeared right before him. Then came a shocking pop-up. His class's unique ability had activated. All the experience he'd ever earned in every single game would now be applied to him personally. While the system started calculating the massive amount of experience he'd gathered over the years, Xiao Yu showed up again, ready to deliver the same beatdown. But unlike before, Erin Ju returned to the classroom. While Dawon was still getting hit and she stepped in, seeing someone else try to protect him struck a nerve. When Xiao Yu tried to strike Erin Ju, Dawon jumped in, stopping the blow midair with a punch straight to his palm. Right then, the system finished loading. Dawon's class successfully upgraded to Superior Game Shuttle. He instantly gained a new attack skill and unleashed it, easily flattening Xiao Yu. Still shocked by what just happened, Dawon received a sudden notification from the system, apparently from the same mysterious helper he had met in. Just like a video game, another notification pops up. He defeated the monster Chial, and the massive experience points shoot him straight to max level. His new class, Sealed Game Shuttle. Every single stat instantly maxes out across the board. Every skill from every game he ever played is now unlocked for him. But then, everything gets sealed. Every single stat drops right back to 1. Still, he gets a legendary golden key, so it counts as a small victory. But things get worse. He runs into Shin Yimin, a well-known bully. Turns out Yimin saw what Dawon did to Chial and believes he is secretly powerful. Wanting Dawon on his side, he invites him to a drinking party tonight. Dawon, being the only guy with any sense, refuses at first, but then the system slaps him with a quest. If he declines, he will face agonizing, unbearable Pain in a highly sensitive area for an entire hour. No choice. At the karaoke bar, Dawon sits with Yi-min and some girls, pretty dazed by the whole setup. Just as he hopes Yi-min might be decent, the guy shows his true colors. He is forcing another student, Yu Jihan, to pay, treating him like trash. The scene hits Dawon hard. Yu Jihan reminds him of how Chial tormented him. Unable to stand by, Dawon steps away, thinking there is nothing he can do with his locked stats, but this situation bugs him too much to ignore. He returns and tries to intervene, but right as he prepares to speak up, one of Yi-min's sketchy friends appears, an older, thug-like guy. Dawon panics and backs down, pretending he just wants the microphone for a song. On stage, another system alert appears, presenting a new quest called One Who Judges Injustice. The goal, strike Yi-min on the head with the microphone. Time limit, 30 minutes or else same brutal punishment as before. Even with the quest pushing him, Dawon cannot bring himself to attack Yi-min immediately. Once everyone sits back down, Yi-min's associate, Yuk Man-chun, questions how a guy like Dawon could have beaten Chial. Yi-min confidently confirms it and finally reveals his true motive for bringing Dawon there. He wants him to join their gang. With Dawon's strength, they can become the most feared crew around, and Dawon will never be abused again. It actually sounds pretty tempting, wouldn't you consider it? But a quiet reminder from Yu Jihan makes him hesitate. Is he seriously going to side with the same kind of garbage people who ruined his life? Sure, he will be safe, but at what cost? Desperate to avoid the agonizing pain the system threatens him with, Dawon heads to the restroom to think, but the heavy guilt gnaws at him. When Yi-min follows him inside, Dawon finally acts. He smashes the microphone right into his head, knocking him out cold. Determined to help Yu Jihan escape, Dawon grabs Yi-min's phone and texts total nonsense to Yuk to lure him out. But before anything can happen, a dark shadow looms over him. Yuk saw right through the bluff. He beats Dawon down with brain-rattling, brutal force, while Dawon lies gasping on the floor, hunting for any small edge. His skill menu remains locked, but suddenly something clicks. He still has that golden key from earlier. Right as Yuk checks on Yi-min's condition, Dawon stands, glowing with he refused to break. He was not going down easily. Then he unlocked a skill. Falcon Drop, a devastating dropkick with a massive catch. It cost 120 mana and Dawon only had 100. Another brutal beating followed, and he suddenly remembered something. He still had Yi-min's copper key. Maybe that key could save him. He crawled back toward it, barely dodging Yuk along the way before tricking him into letting go. A total bluff, but it worked. Reaching the copper key, he used it to boost his mana by 100, just in time. Man-chun was right on him again, with his mana finally charged up. Dawon launched the Falcon Drop, pushing off Yuk's knee and slamming straight into him with a kick powerful enough to shake the entire building. It worked. Victory. He received another key, a silver one this time, but had zero time to breathe. More trouble walked right in. Yi-min's older brother, Gan, showed up, and he was not alone. A crowd of older guys backed him up, clearly looking for a fight. Dawon was out of mana, completely out of options, and totally cornered. Things looked incredibly bad. But check this out, the bar manager rushes in. Someone called the police about underage drinking. Everyone had to clear out fast unless they wanted to get arrested. Just when he thought he could finally rest, Dawon collapsed from sheer exhaustion. When he finally opened his eyes, he was lying in the women's restroom. One of the girls from Yi-min's crew had actually saved him. She saw the whole fight and was incredibly impressed by his Falcon Drop. She was also the one who called the cops. Later on, she reminded Dawon that he owed her a wish, something she expected him to remember. That favor was not going to just vanish. 3 days later, Dawon finally woke up in his apartment after sleeping like a rock. It made sense, dying and then somehow returning to life a week earlier than before would exhaust anyone. The first thing he did was log into Roast role-playing game to search for the player who became his new system administrator, but that user ID was gone, completely deleted. Clearly they wanted absolutely nothing to do with him anymore. With that option off the table, Dawon sat down to figure everything out. The system seemed to treat bullies like game monsters. Defeating them rewarded him with keys, bronze keys. Unlocked his sealed stats, silver ones granted passive skills, and gold keys gave him powerful active abilities. Just as he was finishing up that thought, the doorbell rang. Assuming it was his food delivery, he rushed to open it. But instead of dinner, he got a new quest notification. A boy becomes a man. Standing right there was the exact same girl who helped him earlier. She strolled right in and casually told him to take something off. Turns out she just meant his jacket because the apartment was boiling. Yeah, bit of an awkward moment there. She immediately raided his closet and mocked his terrible fashion choices, asking if his mom picked out his clothes. Honestly, yeah, she absolutely had. Without wasting any time, she dragged him out to shop for clothes, telling him he needed to look presentable since they were spending the entire day together. Apparently that was her wish. They spent hours out and the system kept nudging him with dynamic suggestions, from grabbing some food to catching a movie, chilling at a cafe, and hitting up an arcade. At some point, it really felt like a date, since when do quest systems help your love life? Out on their little date, Dawon finally learned her name, Yeon, but at the arcade, a massive guy tried to pick a fight just for being near her, but Yeon handled things. She straight up claimed Dawon was her boyfriend. Talk about a plot twist. So now they were apparently an official couple. As the sun set, Yeon brought him to their very last stop, a local sauna. Dawon immediately panicked. He was still, well, let's just say, completely inexperienced and not ready for anything spicy. But it turns out romance was not on the menu. The sauna was actually hosting a massive meeting for the Gwanwoo organization. It sounded pretty absurd, but it was incredibly real. They were openly placing a massive bounty on Dawon for taking down Chu and Mansun. No big deal, just 497 thugs now hunting him. Right when that threat dropped, his quest updated to the final stretch of his main trial. That was when Yeon revealed her actual plan. While the group plotted to destroy Dawon, she stepped forward to nominate him as a leader candidate, someone who could command his own faction. Basically, she wanted him to become a major, high-ranking boss himself. Yeon officially cast her vote to put Dawon in charge of the entire Boramdong district. After all, he already proved his strength by smashing several tough guys. It seemed like a lock, and everyone agreed, well, except Dawon himself. He is not exactly thrilled about leading a bunch of violent punks, but considering the alternative means fighting almost 500 of them alone, maybe it is not the worst possible plan. Yeon later confesses she only nominated him because she wanted him in power rather than the rival candidate. And who is that? Kang, the absolute worst ghost from Dawon's past. Now both of them are competing for the neighborhood leader spot. The gang wants to settle this dispute the only way they know how, a brutal fight. Dawon charges ahead, launching a strike at Kang. With a flying kick, it fails. Kang's guard is ridiculous, and Dawon's mana is almost completely drained, leaving him totally exposed. Kang instantly locks him in a chokehold, and while Dawon struggles to breathe, he suddenly remembers exactly who this monster is. Kang used to be a cruel, overweight bully back in middle school. That kid ruined his entire life, tormented him daily, and even with all his new powers, Dawon is still trapped in that same old nightmare. No way. Burning with pure fury, Dawon rips off his jacket and leaps back into the fray. He recalls a passive skill he got from a silver key. It supposedly triggers a massive critical hit and completely bypasses armor. The catch, it only has a 1% activation rate. So Dawon thinks if he punches 100 times, one has to connect. But yeah, that is not how math actually works. Instead of a cool combo, he just flails wildly with pathetic swings, looking totally foolish. Kang has had enough, he grabs. Dawon crashes him into the concrete and begins a brutal beatdown. Dawon's will to resist seems entirely broken, yet he slowly pushes himself back up, shocking everyone. But it turns out he is actually plotting to escape, while pretending to chat with his old school bully about their past. He tries to sprint for the door, no luck. He literally trips over his own discarded jacket, ironically. As he tumbles forward, his hand accidentally slaps Kang's chest, and that critical hit finally activates. Kang flies backward, smashing into the heavy elevator doors and collapsing. Completely unconscious, the spectators watch in utter disbelief, trying to understand what kind of secret technique Dawon unleashed. Some suspect it is insane luck, others think it is pure. But Kang is not finished. He struggles back up, angrier than ever. He surprises everyone, just when it seems Dawon is about to get wrecked. Instead of going for another predictable chest shot, Dawon plays it smart and cracks Kang right in the nose. Turns out defense cannot save him from that. A direct punch to the face. As Kang stumbles, Dawon slips behind and grabs him. He hooks his fingers in Kang's nostrils, pulling like a man possessed. Kang has no choice. Tap out or lose his nose, Kang surrenders, making Dawon the winner. He is now the representative for the Borumdong district, but while Dawon is celebrating his big win, a broken machine nearby sparks right into a puddle, and we all know exactly what happens next. Boom, the entire place explodes, sending the panicked bully council running for their lives. Flames spread instantly, turning the building into a disaster zone. Outside, Dawon realizes that Yeon is still trapped inside. Even though they barely know each other, he charges back. Without hesitating for a single second, the guy really does have a heart, reaching the on the same floor, he kicks open the door, ready to play the savior. Except there is no raging fire. The leader of the meeting already put it out with a fire extinguisher. It was just a minor accident. Talk about awkward. Afterward, Dawon walks Yeon home. He is totally silent, feeling pretty awkward. She smiles, thanking him for trying to rescue her, then heads inside. On the walk back, Dawon opens the system to collect his reward for completing the Becoming a Man quest. But instead of cool gear, a notification pops up. It is already the first day of 12th grade. He gets to school early to set up his gaming setup, only to find someone already waiting there. It is the exact guy Yeon warned him about, the absolute worst bully from the Wonk district, Han Yoon-sung himself. Dawon is visibly terrified, but Yoon-sung catches him off guard. He finds Dawon quite amusing and suggests they team up. Even better, he promises that nobody from the Sandong district will ever target Dawon again. Pretty sweet. As class starts, Dawon notices a weird change. No one is forcing him to play mobile games, and the constant harassment completely vanished. Seems Yoon-sung really kept his word. During a quick bathroom break, Dawon runs into Shin Yi-min. Surprisingly, the bully treats him with a ton of respect. Maybe because Dawon thrashed him pretty hard before. Back in class, Erin drops by with a little thank you gift for saving her during that Chu mess. What did she bring? A wriggling live octopus. Yes, a literal writhing sea creature. She insists it will help his body recover, but Dawon is definitely not thrilled with the idea of chewing on a live animal. Before he can react, a new guy walks up and aggressively demands Dawon play mobile games for him. Great, just when things were quiet. Annoyed that this punk interrupted his chat with Erin, Dawon confidently hands the phone back and tells him to play his own games unless he wants trouble. A bit bold, but it works. Turns out this cocky guy is So-sung, an underling from the Bangshindong branch of the powerful Wonk Council. Thankfully, Sungwoo does not get angry. Instead, he admits he meant no actual harm and seems like a pretty relaxed dude. Sungwoo had only heard that Dawon liked playing games for other people. He was not looking for a fight. Once the mix-up was sorted out, the two simply went their separate ways. Sadly for Dawon, Erin was already gone. A friend had pulled her out before she could witness his bravery. Seriously, talk about the worst timing. but he still had one shot left. If he could reach her and eat lunch together, he might still make a move. But just as he turned, someone grabbed his wrist. It was Jai-han, the guy from that massive mess with Yi-min. He stopped Dawon to deliver a serious warning about Sungwoo. Dawon did not get it. Sungwoo actually seemed pretty calm and quiet. Jai-han agreed that Sungwoo was usually chill and never bullied anyone. He rarely lost his temper. But cutting in line, that flipped a switch. Sure enough, down in the cafeteria, Sungwoo was already in the middle of a rampage. He was pummeling an older student with terrifying, lightning-fast punches. The senior had accidentally cut in front of him, and Sungwoo completely lost it. Remembering that brutal sight, Dawon figured he would be safe if he just stayed back. But of course, the system just couldn't let him catch a break. As he headed home, a new quest popped up, full sprint required. Dawon had to track down Sungwoo and cut in front of him, or face a painful penalty. Talk about horrific timing. Dawon sprinted across campus, searching everywhere. On his way, he spotted a quiet kid named Lan crying in an alleyway. Turns out Lan had accidentally rushed past Sungwoo earlier and paid a heavy price. Sungwoo had absolutely wrecked him. Seeing the poor kid like this sparked a fire. Dawon handed Lan a tissue with only 2 minutes remaining on his clock. He promised to make things right for both of them, no matter what. He pulled out his system keys, his stomach churning with pure anxiety. He still had 4 bronze keys and 1 gold key saved up from earlier. He had purposely saved them for a high-stakes moment just like this. He wanted to understand his opponent first, then adapt to counter them. Knowing Sungwoo relied heavily on raw speed, he put his plan into motion. He used his gold key to unlock a new skill, Blind Spot Strike. It only cost 20 mana, letting him spam attacks without going dry. To stay safe, he used a bronze key to boost his maximum mana to 300. Then he dumped the remaining bronze keys into a single stat for an edge. Fully prepared, he sprinted like crazy toward the bus station. 2 minutes left. Nearby, Sungwoo was cornering a girl who ran past him. Before he could touch her, Dawon grabbed Sungwoo's hoodie and yanked him back. Dawon stepped right past him, successfully completing the first part of his quest. But before he could even catch his breath, the system updated the objective. Defeat the monster. In this case, the monster was Sungwoo himself, and this won't be easy. Before Sungwoo could react, Dawon unleashed his blind spot strike. It landed, sure, but it did not slow Sungwoo down. He ripped off Dawon's backpack effortlessly. Desperate, Dawon launched one final attack. He launches a triple blind spot strike, hoping this flurry deals extra damage. Individually, these strikes are weak, but combined, they pack a real punch. Unfortunately, that only makes Sungwoo angry, next level serious. He slams his own backpack to the ground with a loud crash, instantly appearing right in front of D1. The speed is unreal, faster than D1 can even track from. There it is a total blur. Sungwoo is relentless, and D1 cannot land a single hit, barely avoiding a knockout. Backed into a corner, D1 does what he does best, treating this whole fight like a video game. Shifting into gamer mode, he uses his blind spot strike as bait, then lands a clean backfist straight to Sungwoo's face. It is just a normal punch, but it hits hard. Turns out D1 had used some of his bronze keys earlier to crank up his attack power, knowing he could not win in a speed match. Now, even basic hits hurt, since the system still looks and feels like a game to him. D1 stays focused, trying to predict Sungwoo's moves like a set pattern, but Sungwoo suddenly switches things up. He stops using his fists and lands a surprise kick to D1's forehead, knocking him completely flat. D1 gets back up and tries that blind spot strike trick again. No luck, Sungwoo has already seen through that move. He grabs D1's arm mid-strike, then heel kicks him right in the chin, sending him crashing to the ground. Then it hits D1. He has been using his fingers to activate the skill, but the system never actually said it had to be fingers. Armed with this realization, he Charges in with a leg sweep infused with blind spot strike. Sungwoo is caught off guard and stumbles. Now it is time for D1's secret weapon, the octopus. Yeah, seriously, he still had the live octopus Eren gave him and had secretly slipped it into Sungwoo's hoodie at the start of the fight. While Sungwoo is monologuing about his tragic past, bad childhood, and awful dad. The classic villain origin story, the octopus suddenly climbs up and latches onto his head. Panicking, Sungwoo tries to tear it off, but the octopus holds tight. D1 does not waste a single second. With Sungwoo stunned, he charges to end it with a devastating, double-handed axe strike aimed right at his head. D1 took Sungwoo by surprise with a headbutt that landed clean on his chin. Ending the fight, he won and silently dedicated the victory to Eren. As a reward, he earned another bundle of keys. 1 gold and 2 bronze. Since his health was low after the battle, he used one of the bronze keys to boost it. Then, he used the golden key to unlock a random active skill. Lucky for him, it turned out to be multi-hit strike, the same move he once used to defeat Chu before his powers were sealed. This skill was powerful but needed 200 mana to activate, so he used his last bronze key to upgrade his mana to 400. Feeling content, D1 decided to keep our pet octopus and named it Squishy. Not exactly a creative name, and he was not too aware of his surroundings either. Turns out Squishy ended up in a cat's mouth. Just like that, D1 lost a companion, gone too soon. But not forgot. Back at home, he got a call from his mom, reminding him about his dad's death anniversary next week. She could not come this time due to work, so he had to visit the grave alone. The following day at school, Jian mentioned Sungwoo was missing from class, which was pretty unusual. D1 played totally dumb. Deep down, though, he wondered if defeating Sungwoo had finally brought some peace. That hope vanished quickly. A pack of thugs suddenly stormed into his classroom. Their leader demanded D1 come with them to Bon. And Dong, given his rough past, D1 instantly sensed major danger. When he refused, the leader questioned whether he could handle 10 guys alone. Right then, Shinsehi strolled in and immediately questioned the thugs. 1 thug tried to act tough, but Shinsehi barely moved. A quick leg swipe crushed the guy's leg and dropped him flat. Totally calm, he warned the others they could not have D1, dropping a brutal line. Do you think 10 of you are enough? Without breaking a sweat, he dismantled every thug in the room, leaving their leader behind. He casually invited D1 over to the snack bar. While they were hanging out, Shinsehi suddenly asked why D1 became a bully rep and still fought other bullies. The question caught D1 completely off guard, making him accidentally snort juice from his nose. Trying to act cool, he replied that he was a bully hunter. Pretty funny saying that to a real beast, but Shinsehi just laughed and wished him luck. It definitely felt like a setup for something bigger. Days passed, and D1 stayed on high alert, expecting revenge from that Bon and Dong gang. Luckily, they never came back, and for now, things seemed pretty peaceful again. D1 heads to a PC cafe to chill and play some games. It is a peaceful time. And things get even better when he finds out Eren is the owner's daughter. She helps at the cafe and serves his food. Talk about living the dream, right? While she steps away to grab his order, D1 spots a sketchy group of guys crowding around a PC that a kid had used before heading to the restroom. At first, it looks harmless until they steal all of the kid's hard-earned in-game items. When D1 realizes who did it, the kid begs him for help. Normally, he would stay out of this kind of drama, but the system suddenly drops a fresh quest: take down the 4 thieves. Plus, Eren is watching, so this could change how she sees him. And to top it off, it is a hidden quest with a secret reward. When D1 sees what it is, a date with Eren, he does not hesitate. He immediately chases after the thieves. In a dark alley, the thieves are celebrating their loot when one of them suddenly hits the dirt. D1 has arrived, ready to fight all 4. But when one guy shrugs off D1's Blind spot strike and stands right back up. D1 panics and bolts, leading them on a wild chase. They corner him in another alley, which is a dead end, but when they enter, D1 is nowhere in sight until he drops straight down from above, landing a solid kick on one of them. Now realizing they are in real trouble, the rest of the thieves prepare to fight. D1 introduces himself as the bully rep from Baradin, but they do not take him seriously, even questioning what a bully council even is. Not that it matters, they rush in without thinking. The second guy charges and eats a blind spot strike right to the throat. The last two try to flank him, but D1 hits both with clean heavy strikes to the stomach. He is on fire today, with the three dazed and cornered. D1 unleashes his newest skill, multi-strike destruction. He finishes off two more with total ease. Only the guy hit in the throat stays conscious. The thief begs for mercy. For a second, D1 actually feels kind of bad until he remembers what is at stake here. No way, no mercy. That date with Aaron is still on the line. Once he knocks out the last thief, D1 receives a silver key from the system. Later, he marches the thieves back to the PC cafe and forces them to return the stolen items. On their knees, they beg the kid for forgiveness. Watching them grovel, D1 cannot help but feel pretty proud. He actually pulled it off. Aaron offers to treat him to dinner as a way of saying thanks, and D1 is absolutely thrilled. While she gets ready, he remembers the very first time they crossed paths back in elementary school. Two older girls were picking on a classmate, and D1 had stepped in to protect her. The leader of that bully group was a tough girl. One quick blow to his chest ended the fight. That girl later turned out to be Aaron. They eventually drifted apart in middle school, and she became a lot kinder afterward. Before Aaron comes back down to head out, D1 uses his new silver key to unlock a passive skill called Weapon Mastery, which slightly boosts his combat skills against armed foes. When Aaron appears in a snug white dress, he thinks he might actually faint, though not from any fight. They head over to a noodle place famous for its bizarre dishes. Those mint chocolate noodles look like straight out of a horror movie, but D1 gulps them down with nothing but praise because it is Aaron's favorite. Next stop is a fun game lounge where they try out Jenga, a lie detector challenge, and more. Afterward, they spot a strength tester game, a classic hammer and nail booth. Aaron goes first and loses, so D1 steps up, aiming to impress her. But wait, the system has other plans. A quest pops up: slam Aaron's head with full force within 5 minutes. Shocked, he glances at the timer. Instead of the heavy hammer, he finds a toy squeaker nearby booth, and with a few quick tries, smacks it against Aaron's head. Just hard enough to clear the quest with only seconds to spare. Walking home, D1 worries that Aaron might be furious, but she suddenly bursts out laughing. She says it has been ages since she lost so hilariously, asking to play together again sometime. They part ways at her dad's PC cafe, and all seems well until a massive thug shows up carrying a foam bat. He claims to be a friend of the thieves D1 beat up earlier, saying he does not care about revenge. But then he makes a sickening remark about trying to play with Aaron next. That completely enrages D1. He grabs the thug by the shoulder, telling him to follow. And a hidden quest to defeat Sunman Jui instantly activates. In a dark alley, D1 starts throwing blow after blow, desperate to secure a critical hit by going completely all out, after burning through his active skills against the thieves. Earlier, D1 is totally out of mana, since he has not rested yet. There is no way to recover any. Sunman Jui, clearly annoyed, knocks him back and pulls out a pair of brass knuckles, planning to end things for good, but D1 is not done just yet. His passive skill, Weapon Mastery, suddenly kicks in. With a quick power boost, Dawon dashes in and smacks the smugness right off Jui. Shocked and confused, Jui demands to know where Dawon got that metal bat. But taking a closer look reveals the real truth of the situation. It is not a bat at all, just a broken toy hammer from the stall. With Weapon Mastery active, Even this cheap toy works just fine. Dawon matches Jui blow for blow until the bully tackles him down. Dawon recovers fast, using the broken plastic handle to strike back. He drives the handle straight into Jui's skull with a loud crack. It does the trick, but the toy hammer finally shatters for good. Now Dawon is empty-handed, and trust me, things are about to get ugly. Jui swings his heavy brass knuckles, landing brutal hit after hit. He mocks Ari with nasty comments, bragging about being a thug. He claims being a villain is the only smart choice, triggering Dawon. Something inside him snaps. Covered in blood, Dawon slowly rises back up. He draws his own belt, activating weapon mastery for a whole new round. Dawon lashes out like a total pro, whipping Jui over and over. When the bully tries to grab the leather, Dawon flips him clean over. That massive slam ends the fight for good. After confirming Ari and her dad are safe, he slides away. Dawon drags himself home, unable to stop thinking about Jui. Honestly, he has no good argument against that cruel lifestyle. Maybe being bad is indeed much easier. He wonders what his dad would say. Instead of overthinking, Dawon decides to focus on his sweet rewards. He just scored 5 shiny bronze keys. Since fights keep popping up, it is time to start spending. Having already boosted his attack stat earlier, he puts 3 keys into agility and 2 into defense. Next up, the final prize. A dungeon map, though it is not quite what he expects. It is actually just a real estate booklet for some apartments. This dungeon opens in 5 days and strictly requires at least 2 players. Plus, failing comes with a heavy penalty, no pressure, right? Desperate for a teammate, Dawon tries asking a few people. Dawon gets turned down immediately, and Giant has suffered enough. He absolutely refuses to drag his friend into dangerous territory. Besides, Dawon barely knows anyone. After school, Yan is waiting. Yan insists it is finally time to meet the Boram Dong crew. Since he is technically their representative, Dawon braces himself. But only 2 guys show up, including Kang Si-hoon, making things awkward. Yan quickly scares them both into behaving before making introductions. The last member, Shin Si-hee, looks like a chill middle-aged guy. But surprisingly, he is still just a high school student. Dawon soon learns the Boram Dong group used to be much bigger. They got crushed after some incident with their previous rep. Shin Si-hee stays silent, quickly changing the subject. She asked if Dawon had actually kept himself out of trouble lately. No picking fights with other bullies, and no beating up random thugs. Naturally, Dawon was totally on his best behavior, most likely. Either way, Shin Si-hee warned the crew to keep their heads down. Boram Dong was still weak, but just 4 days later, trouble arrived. The rival Bong and Dong crew were active at the dungeon site. With limited options, Dawon had to reach out to a former enemy. He asked Kang Si-hoon for help. The guy was a beast. If anyone could clear this dungeon, it was him, but there was a catch. Kang demanded the representative position. It was a tough trade, but Dawon agreed. Inside the dungeon, Kang showed exactly why everyone feared him. He absolutely annihilated the rival thugs like they were made of paper. Dawon realized just how incredibly lucky he was to have this monster on his side. Without that lucky critical hit in their last fight, he would have lost. He was ready to let Kang carry, then the system spoke. Defeat 5 normal monsters for the novice quest. The reward was a gold key, definitely worth fighting for. Armed with his toy lightsaber and weapon mastery, Dawon jumped right in. He overwhelmed his first opponent with a flurry of strikes, tripping him. Then he jabbed another, taking down 2 enemies in seconds. Kang watched, genuinely impressed. The kid had gotten much stronger since their duel. While Kang cleared the rest, Dawon pushed forward and defeated 2 more. Just 1 more kill to finish his quest, but there was a problem. The final thug was already in Kang's grip. Dawon tried asking for a pass. But Kang was not sharing, Luckily, the desperate thug managed to pull out a knife and tried to stab Kang, keyword being tried. Dawon hurled his weapon like a javelin, knocking the guy out cold. Embarrassed about being rescued, Kang got all awkward and immediately stormed off to find Yi Chang, the deputy of Bong and Dong, heading up the site. They ran into the same punk who led the school raid earlier. He tried to block them, but Dawon landed a solid blind spot strike. This cleared the path for Kang to keep moving toward the leader. Dawon stayed behind to clean up the trash, or so he thought. Because Joe He, the thug standing in his way, was no ordinary street punk. The system labeled him as an elite monster with a counter for everything. Normally, this would make Dawon run, but dungeon rewards were too good. He was determined to win, and surprisingly, his new strategy actually worked. Instead of using his blind spot strike as a regular attack, he used it to interrupt his moves, creating huge openings to strike. That gamer instinct kicked in. Even when the elite thug managed to land some strikes, Dawon was able to block most of them, thanks to those sweet stat boosts from earlier. But just as things were finally looking up, the guy started talking. It immediately turned into one of those typical, annoying villain monologues. He had researched Dawon's past, especially when it came to his father. His father, had spent his life trying to rehabilitate delinquents, turn their lives around. Dawon, already completely exhausted and annoyed, snaps and warns him to leave his father out of it. Meanwhile, upstairs, Kang and Baek Chang are locked in a highly competitive, balanced fight. During their brutal exchange, Kang casually mentions that all of Baek Chang's men have already been taken care of, leaving only a single opponent for Dawon to handle. Hearing this, Baek Chang drops a total bombshell. That guy is no ordinary thug, but their absolute toughest fighter. No matter how hard or how often he gets hit, he keeps getting back up. His stamina is practically limitless. Down in the fight, this is proving to be painfully true. Dawon threw everything at he, blind spot strikes, a falcon drop, and massive combos, yet the guy keeps standing, exhausted with almost no mana remaining. Dawon tries to unleash his ultimate skill, multi-strike destruction. But his beaten body is too worn out. The skill fails to activate. That is when he counters with brutal force, slamming Dawon into the dirt. Standing over him, he keeps running his mouth, mocking his struggle and dragging his father's name through the mud, claiming he would be deeply ashamed of his son's path in the Bully Council. Dawon, bloody and absolutely furious, struggles back up to grab he by his collar, delivering one final warning: do not speak about his dad. Then he triggers his newly acquired active skill from the gold key, Stun Smash. It costs 90 mana, but serves as his ultimate gamble. This skill is inspired by a game he once played with his father, where the final boss was immune to simple brute force. Dawon activates the skill and forcefully slams him into the hard ground. With everything, that should have finished him, but get this, he gets right back up. Refusing to give up, Dawon tries to keep fighting, but his punches have grown sluggish and slow. His stamina depleted, he, however, is still throwing incredibly solid punches and kicks, beating him down. While brutally smashing Dawon's face, he keeps taunting him, calling both him and his father complete failures, but those insults spark a fire deep within Dawon. Dragging his exhausted body up, he throws one final strike, and miraculously, a critical hit triggers. The impact sends him flying to the edge of the staircase. Still, it is not enough. The monster stands up once more, eager to counter, but that is exactly what Dawon wanted. They are now standing at the very top of the construction site stairs. Dawon grabs his face and leaps forward, dragging the supposedly invincible fighter down with him. While plunging, he activates Stun Smash once more, but this time something shifts. Just like the retro game he played as a kid, the secret to defeating the boss is simple: grab him and throw him down from a great height. With this massive drop, Stun Smash evolves into Stun Slam, an incredibly powerful upgraded version, just like his father always taught him. No genuine effort is ever wasted. Joe Eluk finally goes down hard, without wasting a single second. Dawon rushes to the rooftop where Kang is battling Beak Chang. When he arrives, he is completely shocked. Kang is already on the ground and Chang is ready to deliver a finishing blow. Dawon leaps in, knocks Chang back and tells Kang to get out of there. He takes full responsibility for dragging him into this and insists on holding the enemy back. The problem is, Dawon is completely out of mana with almost no health left, confronting the dungeon's primary boss like. This is absolute suicide. Just as everything is about to fall apart, someone completely unexpected arrives, young Suk Yang, despite looking elegant, and Dawon cannot help but notice he is pretty short, but power-wise there is absolutely nothing small about him. One kick is all Su Young needs to knock Chang out cold. It turns out Chang has been going rogue for a while, and Su Young is here to put him in his place. After teasing Dawon a bit, Su Young mentions that he came because of Yun Seong, even though Yun Seong did not want to tag along at first. He apparently remembered the address and decided to show up anyway. With the dungeon fully cleared, Dawon and Kang head out. Since Kang is hurt, Dawon helps him walk. On the way, Kang warns him that Yun Seong probably has some hidden motive, but Dawon casually tells him to worry about that, since he is the new representative now. But Kang refuses, saying Dawon saved him twice tonight, so that title still belongs to him. He will take over next time, so Dawon better not die before. Then, later, once Dawon is alone, he opens the system to claim his rewards. Since he did not land the final blow on the boss, his rewards are expected to be weak, but surprisingly, he gets 12 bronze keys. Not bad. A few days later, Dawon visits the place where his father is laid to rest. He quietly reflects on the tragic crash that killed him. According to the report, his father had to swerve into a pole due to brake failure while avoiding a pedestrian. It was fatal. While he is deeply lost in thought, a familiar voice breaks the silence. This stranger says that Dawon's father was a good man, but what if his death was no accident? What if someone close to Dawon planned it? These shocking words come from Yun Seong, who steps forward. Dawon is stunned and asks how Yun Seong even knew his father. Yun Seong thinks back to when he was younger. A man once approached him, giving him some advice and showing concern for his health. Apparently, he was a bully hunter, but brushing that aside, Yun Seong says what is important now is the truth. Dawon argues that the crash was declared an accident by the police, but Yun Seong tells him otherwise. The guy who was with him the other night, Jang Soo-young, has video proof that the crash was deliberate. Whether Dawon chooses to believe it or not, that is up to him. After saying what he came to say, Yun Seong leaves. Dawon spends the whole day thinking about everything he just heard. Eventually, he makes up his mind. Over at Yun Seong's apartment, a message from Dawon pops up with a single question, asking where he can find Soo-young. Somewhere in a dark alley, Soo-young and his bodyguard are walking under an umbrella. As the rain begins to ease, they spot Dawon approaching. He walks right up and demands the evidence. Soo-young casually pulls out a USB. Dawon tells him to hand it over, but Soo-young clearly is not planning to. If Dawon wants it, he will have to fight for it. Dawon does not wait. He leaps at Soo-young to grab the USB, but the bodyguard steps in and knocks him right back. Looking incredibly confident, the bodyguard gets ready for another round, but wait, Dawon is incredibly calm. He has been saving those 12 bronze keys for exactly this moment. With a clean strike to the face, he catches the thug completely off guard. A flurry of strikes follows, ending in a brutal stun slam. The massive bodyguard is down in seconds. Dawon's mana now stands at 1600, but Soo-young is not impressed. He warns Dawon that this time he will not. Seok-young plays around. He leaps with a sudden kick, misses, and Dawon appears high above, slamming down with a maximum power falcon drop before following it up with more skills, but nothing lands. Seok-young brushes off those hits like they are absolutely nothing. This guy is clearly playing in a completely different Leg annoyed, Seok-young declares he only needs 2 more hits to end this. He connects with an uppercut, dropping Dawon's health by over 1,000, leaving him with just a sliver remaining. Lying on the dirt, Dawon tries one final move. He makes Seok-young slip by hitting a blind spot, bringing him down in the rainwater. Then he leaps on him, unleashing 3 rounds of rapid multi-strike. Fury, but not a single blow lands. Seok-young dodges everything from point-blank range. Smirking, he pretends to hand over the USB, then yanks it back, delivering his second blow. The impact sends Dawon crashing into a wall. Later, Dawon finally regains consciousness. It is still raining and he is still slumped in that alley. Memories of the beating flood back, making him break down and cry. He apologizes to his father, not just for failing, but because he is terrified. He desperately wants justice, but he is just too incredibly weak. Right then, the system activates with a brand new quest. The reward, 10,000 health boost, 1,000 more MP, and 200 across all combat stats. This is the ultimate turning point. From this moment, Dawon is completely committed. No matter how brutal, he will complete this quest to gain the strength he needs. Finishing this trial is never going to be easy. There are 5 tasks. Walk 50 kilometers to school in a dragon pose, squat like sitting on an invisible chair for 7 full days, and catch 100 pigeons. Barehanded, hang under a slide for 5 days, and beat the Ningfi game. On hell difficulty, unsurprisingly, he barely makes 2% progress after an entire week sitting at the playground. One evening, he doubts if this is even worth the grind. What if that evidence does not exist? Maybe he is just wasting precious time chasing things that will not bring his father justice at all. Just as he is about to quit, he overhears Sehun nearby. Turns out Sehun once avoided gyms because of how heavily overweight he was in middle school. Instead, he secretly snuck to this empty playground and trained in silence for 2 whole years. Hearing this makes Dawon feel deeply ashamed. If someone could push that hard just to shed weight, how could he quit when his own father's justice is at stake? That single moment reignites his fury. He vows to conquer every single quest, no matter what. 2 months later, Seok-young is working in his office when someone walks in. At first glance, the intruder looks the same, but once he sees clearly, he realizes it is Dawon, demanding the USB. Seok-young simply laughs and warns that this ends exactly like before, with Dawon getting beaten to a bloody pulp. But Dawon does not flinch. He calmly shuts the door, turns around, and stares him down with absolute, quiet confidence. His eyes say it all. This is not the same fight. After months of intense training and conquering every bizarre task from the system, Dawon returns not just physically transformed, but mentally unbreakable. Seok-young does not take him seriously, though. He figures nobody can change this much. Only 2 months, but this fight told a different story. Every punch Young threw was effortlessly blocked or dodged. Even his trash talk failed completely. Dawon did not even blink. His sheer speed and defense had gone through the roof. He scarcely had to shift to make his opponent look totally foolish. While getting battered, Young suddenly recalled a warning from his own son a while back. He had mentioned Dawon possessed some terrifying hidden potential. Still, he refused to believe he could actually lose. Desperate, he decided to run his mouth about Dawon's father. That crossed the line. An explosive uppercut and a brutal body shot left Young flat on the floor, gasping for air. That was the real awakening, loud and clear. Brutal and long overdue. After taking that blow, Young did something completely unexpected. He laughed. Instead of backing away, he seemed thrilled to finally trade blows with a real challenger. They traded wild hits, but Young quickly picked up on a vital detail. Despite Dawon's massive power, his actual instincts were still raw, exploiting that weakness immediately. Young used the environment to throw him off, even tripping him over a couch. Dawon recovered, but Young was starting to show what he could really do. A heavy rib punch, a face kick, and a clean jab His strikes were finally connecting. That is when Dawon noticed something else. Young had been holding back this entire time, but that was fine, so had. He's smiling calmly. He snatched Young's next attack midair and declared it was over. Then came the storm. Uppercut, jab, jab again, hook, uppercut. And another uppercut. Young was totally overwhelmed, though for a second he tried to turn things around. He slipped past a strike and counterattacked, but Dawon did not even flinch. He took the punch right to his face and did not budge. Apparently defending was optional now. Frozen in absolute shock, Young stared. That is when Dawon stepped forward, unleashing a massive, full-powered blow with his high attack. Stat of 231 plus a lucky critical hit. Young was finished. Dawon grabbed the USB drive from his limp hand, walking out of the building without looking back. Once outside, an unexpected sight met his eyes. Dawon had grown closer to Baekhyun recently, but he never expected to witness this. Baekhyun was standing completely alone, blocking over 40 Ban and Dong bullies from storming the building. His mere presence was enough to keep them back. When they saw Dawon walk out and grew furious, they still refused to move. Instead, they let him leave with Baekhyun, rushing indoors to see what had happened. To Jeong, later the two sat in a quiet park, where Dawon opened the USB drive. What he watched made his blood boil. The footage clearly showed someone cutting his father's car brakes on the exact day of the fatal accident. The culprit wore a heavy disguise, but one specific detail stood out: the jacket. It belonged to Sunlight Shelter, the youth center his own father had founded to support troubled teenagers, and someone from there betrayed him like this. Dawon was furious, ready to absolutely explode, but Baekhyun stepped in to calm him down. Just because the suspect wore that uniform did not mean he was actually a member. They still had no solid leads, but a passing comment from Baekhyun gave Dawon a sudden idea. If the killer was truly connected to Sunlight Shelter, maybe a clue was hidden. They stood outside the gang's old hideout, feeling genuinely hopeful for once. Dawon thanked his ally and started heading home, but then Baekhyun asked what he would do once he finally tracked down the person responsible. Dawon did not hesitate. He simply promised to crush them. Meanwhile, midterms were only a week away, and he had not opened a book in 2 months. He was completely focused on training. Panic set in, but then Jaehan came in clutch, offering to tutor him and inviting him over to study together. It was an absolute lifesaver. On the walk back, reality finally set in. Dawon realized that Jaehan was truly a loyal friend. It took him long enough. As they made their way to Jaehan's place, a system notification flashed. A new quest appeared: protect Jaehan during exam week. So much for school being his only worry, even with the surrounding chaos of his father's mystery. Dawon was determined to find the truth. For now, he had a dual mission: survive midterms and protect Jaehan. Arriving at Jaehan's house, actually, make that a massive mansion, Dawon was completely speechless. The luxury looked straight out of a primetime drama. He even mistook the maid for Jaehan's mother, causing a pretty awkward moment. As they hit the books, it was clear neither had known real friendship. This bond was completely new. They kept studying daily, and before long, Dawon noticed countless details, showing just how different their worlds truly were. Jaehan literally had a personal gaming lounge gifted for his birthday. Yet, Dawon was not the jealous type. Everyone's life is built differently. Plus, Jaehan was just a genuinely cool guy. He even started thinking this protection quest would be a breeze. No surprise ambushes, no trouble. Just peaceful studying. But of course, the moment you let your guard down, things have a way of going completely sideways. Heading home one afternoon, they got on to the topic of tutors. Dawon was shocked to learn Jaehan once had 20 private tutors, though not just for standard school subjects. The guy learned literally everything. It sounded slightly suspicious, but whatever. Suddenly, they ran into trouble. Out of nowhere, a classic delinquent blocked their paths. Complete with flash tattoos, piercings, and slick back hair. His name was Lee Guman, an old thug from Jihan's middle school days. He began mocking Jihan, demanding a little reunion, but Jihan stood tall. With Dawon standing firmly beside him, Jihan told the thug to back off. Later, near his estate, Jihan quietly mentioned that he was not feeling up to studying that night. Dawon did not push him. He just nodded and headed back, yet sitting alone in his room. A heavy feeling set in. The system quest still loomed: protect Jihan. And that thug Lee Guman definitely radiated nothing but bad news. Unable to shake his anxiety, Dawon rushed back to check on his friend. That is the kind of loyalty that defines a true main character. Reaching the mansion, he asked the maid if Jihan was inside. He was not. Apparently, he had gone out with those old middle school delinquents. Dawon felt a bit stung that his friend skipped their session for them. But as long as Jihan remained safe, nothing else really mattered. He was right though. Dawon remembered setting up protection earlier. That's when it clicked. Jihan wasn't hanging out with friends, he was taken. Dawon rushed into the city to look for him. Jihan, meanwhile, was dragged to a secret spot where Guman and his crew wasted time drinking and playing games. Guman wasn't just partying though, he made Jihan relive his worst middle school memories. What a total psycho. Back then, Guman would drag Jihan to this exact place and beat him for refusing to drink. Now he even threatened to tell Jihan's sick mother everything if he dared to speak up. It was emotional blackmail at its worst, while the brutal bullying continued. Guman handed his lackeys a credit card to buy more booze and smokes. That was their entire trashy routine. Meanwhile, Dawon searched every single arcade, hangout, and joint in town looking for Jihan, but found nothing. Only then did Dawon call Jihan's phone. Surprisingly, Lee Gon actually picked up. After some arguing, Gon gave him the address and challenged Dawon to come rescue his friend himself. Soon, Gon's crew grew annoyed, waiting for their drinks, but right then, the errand boys came crashing through the door, completely knocked out. Dawon had officially arrived, and he wasn't holding back. But first, let's look at some quick backstory. Guman and Jihan actually started out as friends in middle school. Both were wealthy, had sick mothers, and barely hung out with anyone else. Things shattered when Guman lost his mom. Jealousy over Jihan's mother being alive turned into pure hatred, completely destroying their friendship. Back in the present, Dawon stormed the hideout, dropping thugs left and right with quick, precise strikes. One massive thug stood his ground, too heavy for normal attacks. Dawon solved that by hitting way harder, knocking the guy out cold along with his teeth in one clean combo. Next, two seniors stepped up, acting all tough, but they got beaten so fast the animator skipped the fight. With everyone cleared out, Dawon rushed to Jihan. Guman, panicking, called a champion fighter way above the rest. This brute, Jang Pedin, tried to ambush Dawon but got countered instantly. Impressed, he introduced himself as Kim Gang Yi, the undisputed boss of Guman's crew. His entire presence leaked a heavy pressure. Dawon knew this fight was on a whole different level. As the clash with Gang Yi intensified, it became completely obvious his regular strikes weren't dealing much damage. Even his blind spot hits were getting shrugged off like nothing. Meanwhile, Gang Yi's heavy counters were piling up damage. Deciding to turn the tide, Dawon prepared his ultimate strike, but Gang Yi grabbed his arm before he could execute it. Just as Dawon seemed completely trapped, he flipped forward mid-stance, launching a brutal falcon drop right onto Gang Yi's skull. It missed slightly, but still ripped into his shoulder, leaving a massive, bloody wound. From the side, Guman screamed in absolute panic, asking if Gang Yi would actually lose too. Enraged, Gang Yi roared that he wasn't at full power yet, a clear sign he was only trying to convince himself. His defense grew sloppy, and Dawon seized the opening, landing a heavy stun smash right to Gang Yi's skull, smashing him crashing hard into a pillar. Barely keeping his footing, Gang Yi was completely rattled. Dawon stepped forward, preparing to finish things with his multi-strike destruction, but he froze. Gon had snatched up a sharp dart from nearby and was locking Jihan in a tight chokehold. A single wrong move meant serious injury. Dawon couldn't move. Capitalizing on this, Gang Yi immediately started thrashing Dawon, who took every hit without fighting back to protect Jihan. Meanwhile, Guman threatened Jihan to stay quiet unless he wanted his mother. Seeing those awful, humiliating photos and videos from their school days, it was pure emotional blackmail, and it almost worked, but then something snapped. Inside Jihan, remembering how Guman went dark after losing his own mother. He felt some regret for not helping back then. Still, he refused to play the victim any longer. With a sudden burst of strength, Jihan flipped Guman over his shoulder and slammed him hard. Turns out, he was always strong. With his bully pinned, Jihan grabbed the sharp dart, pressing it to Guman's throat. He looked over at Dawon, telling him to end this. Dawon's fist sparked with a bright blue light as he glared at Gang Yi. Without pausing, he unleashed the devastating multi-strike destruction. A memory flashes back to when Guman lost his mother. Seeing Jihan happy and surrounded by friends made him incredibly bitter. Why did Jihan get to be happy? Envy quickly curdled into pure hatred. Now, back in reality. With his crew wiped out, Guman was cornered. In a desperate move, he shoved two conscious girls from his group forward, demanding they fight. He even dragged them by their hair, but honestly, with their heavy hitter down, what could they possibly do? Seeing Dawon close in, Guman let go of them and tried to buy his way out, offering Dawon triple the cash Jihan was giving him. The guy clearly did not understand how real loyalty works. When the bribe failed, he resorted to his usual threat, bringing up Jihan's mother again, which immediately sparked a memory of the exact moment their friendship fell apart for good. Back then, Jihan had tried to talk some sense into Guman, but things went south fast. Guman lashed out and insulted Jihan's mother, which pushed Jihan completely over the edge. Out of sheer rage, he thrashed him. But the fallout was devastating. His mother, who was already critically ill, collapsed from the shock. Ever since that day, Guman used footage of them tormenting Jihan as leverage, threatening to show the videos to her and destroy her health. Back in the present, Dawon had enough. He grabbed Guman's phone, wiped the videos, and gave him a choice. Lay one finger on Jihan again, and things get ugly. Dawon was standing by his friend now. Guman, trying one last pathetic, desperate sneak attack, lunged forward. Big mistake. Jihan planted a solid kick right in his face, knocking him out cold. Later, Jihan admitted how the trauma of his mother's collapse had left him terrified of fighting, but having Dawon by his side gave him the strength to stand tall. He even decided to tell his mother the whole truth, stripping Guman of his leverage forever. Just like his mother once told him, if you have a friend you can. Trusting each other means they can face anything. After thanking Dawon, they go their separate ways. Meanwhile, back at his usual training park, Dawon scores a secret item, all for keeping Jihan safe. Its aura is incredibly intense, but it looks like a simple black lock. Dawon claims it has a totally broken ability, though he keeps it secret. When midterms wrap up, Dawon barely scrapes by, all thanks to Jihan. While they chat about the upcoming school trip, Jihan mentions he is staying at the hospital with his mom. Dawon has his own business to handle. Chasing an old lead, he visits the former Sunlight Shelter site, hoping for clues, but the place is completely gone. Demolished and rebuilt 3 years ago, an old man nearby tells him the only remnant is a leftover item from his father's old office, a small case holding a pair of broken glasses. Elsewhere, Guman is back to plotting. He meets up with a shady group from the Bully Council's mercenary agency, hiring them to eliminate both Jihan and Dawon. Yes, he literally hired hitmen. Talk about holding a grudge. Finally, the school trip arrives and Dawon waits on campus with his classmates, wishing he had just stayed home to play video games instead. but running into Aaron completely changes his mood. Things do not seem so bad. Jihan joins them next, reminding Dawon that he is not alone anymore. He actually has real friends to hang out with now. After a long bus ride, the students arrive in Jeonju for their first activity. Pottery class. It is not exactly thrilling, but at least it is something. The pottery master immediately scolds Dawon before showering Jihan with praise, whose sculpture is apparently miles ahead of everyone else. Dawon's piece, on the other hand, is not even close. Next, they head to lunch. Staying right inside the workshop, it turns out the master is also a highly skilled pizza chef. Later, the group heads to a museum, which is apparently so boring they skip it entirely. Once outside, Dawon spots Erin and her friend nearby. Seriously, he is falling hard for her. Next up on the schedule is some free time. Finally, the fun begins. Dawon and Jihan team up to explore, totally oblivious to two shady figures tracking them from a distance. Eventually, they make their way to a four-wheeler rental stand, where they spot Erin and her friend already out riding. Thanks to the rental guy, the group splits into two pairs. Dawon ends up riding with Erin, while Jihan pairs up with her friend. Huge props to the rental guy, the real MVP here, for pulling off an absolute wingman masterclass. During the ride, Dawon's brain completely short-circuits from being so close to Erin. The result, he blurts out a painfully awkward pickup line that will probably haunt him forever. As they pass a loud food truck, Erin mentions she gets headaches from loudspeakers, so they quickly head back to the shop. There, they start talking about the school recreation event tomorrow night. Dawon asks if she will be fine. With all the loud noise, Erin plans to skip it and explore the Chin's observatory instead. Right then, their friends make their return. But there is one weird detail. Jihan is carrying her friend princess style. Is there seriously anything this guy cannot do? Heading back to the hotel, Jihan casually explains they had a minor accident. Her legs gave out, so he carried her. Sounds pretty suspicious, but okay. After the long day, the boys finally head back to their shared room to call it a night. The next day is packed with back-to-back boring activities, visiting old temples, historical sites, and small villages, and another museum. But by evening, things finally start picking up. At the auditorium, the school dance club is performing. Better yet, a few get front row seats on the stage, except those are reserved for the dancers' boyfriends. Wait a second, one guy looks exactly like Jihan. Turns out it actually is him. Minjun Choi brought him up as her boyfriend. The dude literally moves faster than Wi-Fi, feeling left out. Dawon remembers Erin's plan to sneak out. He quietly slips away to go check on her, but as he heads toward the spot, he suddenly gets a system notification. Out in an open field, a new event has started. Event Dungeon King's Tomb. He wonders where the enemies will appear. Right then, someone charges from behind. Dawon blocks the strike, but another guy sneaks in a clean shot. These are not random attackers. They are the Hyop and Tuck brothers, hired mercenaries from Guman's agency. As the three prepare to clash, Dawon stands his ground, completely calm, even as the younger brother tries to ambush him from behind with a surprise attack. The younger brother charges, but catches a brutal backfist straight to the face. While the younger one faceplants on the ground, Dawon stands tall. He wonders why this dungeon has such an epic name for a simple street brawl in an open field. No time to lose. Dawon turns to the older brother, casually asking if they are twins, since they keep yelling each other's names. Suddenly, Dawon launches a heavy punch at the older brother's face. Surprisingly, the guy catches it with one hand. Pretty impressive, but not a big problem. Dawon quickly tries to activate multi-hit destruction. Right then, the younger brother recovers and kicks Dawon's arm, throwing his move off. As Dawon attempts a blind spot strike, he takes a nasty hit from behind. The brothers quickly regroup while Dawon shifts into a defensive stance. This fight needs real focus. When the younger brother rushes again, he eats a triple blind spot combo, but while Dawon lands those hits, the older brother smacks him hard. From behind, as things drag on, Dawon starts noticing the real issue. These two are not particularly strong, but their coordination is basically perfect. They cover each other's blind spots like clockwork, constantly moving as one, basic teamwork, but against a solo fighter. Like Dawon, it is working. He needs one massive blow to turn the tide. Dawon charges in with a plan, faking an attack toward the younger brother, but turning last second to strike the older one, the older brother. However, reads the move and counters with a sweep, but Dawon had anticipated that too, using the sweep's momentum to flip midair and go for a falcon drop. Plot twist, the younger brother had also predicted that Dawon. He predicts the older brother's counter. While Dawon is midair, the guy grabs his hoodie and drives a heavy fist straight into his face, with both brothers working. Together, they trap Dawon in a solid hold, pinning his arms and getting ready to snap them, but they completely underestimated Dawon's raw power. Locked in their grip, he simply forces both their heads together and slams them into each other with a brutal headbutt. Both brothers crash down hard as Dawon looks down at their unconscious bodies. A random motorcycle rolls up nearby, unmanned, incredibly suspicious. Soon the two defeated brothers begin dragging themselves back up. They have backup now, a third figure steps forward. Turns out there is a third brother, the leader of the triplets. Oh. Kwangseop has finally arrived. Meanwhile, back at the school auditorium, Jihan is still trying to act cool, while Minjun Choi dances way too close for comfort on stage. Talk about awkward. Back inside the dungeon, the three brothers start bantering while Dawon silently sizes them up. He casually asks why they look identical. Oh. Kwangseop smugly explains they are triplets, right before Dawon slugs him directly in the face mid-sentence. Game on. All three brothers prepare to strike. Simultaneously, Dawon reacts instantly, kicking off phase 1 of his sudden plan. Run, no panic, just pure strategy. The brothers split up, each dashing in a different direction to corner him before he escapes. What those brothers did not realize was that Dawon completely set them up. By separating them, he manages to corner the middle brother and land a heavy punch that completely knocks the wind out of him as the younger brother charges to strike from behind. Dawon ducks forward and unleashes a reverse split kick, powered by a blind spot strike. That heavy uppercut-style kick hits the younger brother, dropping him instantly. Just when it looks like Dawon has the upper hand, the oldest brother ambushes him from above, catching him off guard and sending him flying. As Dawon recovers, the three regroup and prepare to launch another coordinated assault. Facing the trio entirely alone, Dawon starts noticing something strange. They are not getting any faster, he is just slowing down. Their hit-and-run tactics and sheer numbers are wearing him out. Winning this solo seems pretty much impossible. Fortunately, he is not alone. Jihan suddenly crashes into the fight, taking down the oldest brother with a quick foot sweep and a heavy slam. Turns out when Dawon retreated earlier, his actual goal was not just to split them up. It was to text Jihan and lure him straight here. The triplets, absolutely furious, charge at them. The youngest brother reaches Jihan first, only to be dropped by a clean 1-inch punch. Simultaneously, Dawon unleashes a flurry of heavy strikes on the middle brother, knocking him out cold. With all three defeated, Dawon corners the oldest brother, demanding some answers. They kept calling Jihan and him targets. What is that supposed to mean? Who hired them? The oldest brother is not talking. The mercenary group they work for has an incredibly strict code. Talk about the contract and you get instantly eliminated, while pretending to stay quiet. The guy is secretly planning a desperate sneak attack on Dawon before he can move. But then Dawon suddenly feels off. His HP and MP are perfectly fine, yet his stamina has tanked. It completely plummeted. Is this some kind of hidden mechanic in the game system? There is no time to think. Dozens of new figures surround them. a system pop-up announces the next threat. The Monster Squad from Sagal High School. These are not just basic delinquents. They are the actual dungeon monsters. Looks like the triplets were not the final bosses. This squad did not show up for a noble cause either. They claim they want Okwangsiop for hurting their juniors, but that is a lie. Honestly, they are just bored and looking for a fight since their area was too quiet. Right away, they start kicking the absolute crap out of the unconscious triplets. Okwangsiop tries to protect them, but without any backup, he quickly folds. Meanwhile, Dawon and Jihan find themselves completely surrounded. They did nothing to these new guys, but that does not seem to matter to them. One Sagal student recognizes Dawon from the ATV ride with Aaron yesterday. He decides to be an absolute trash bag about it, trying way too hard to act tough. The thug suggests stealing Dawon's phone to call Aaron. Talk about bottom-tier thug behavior. Realizing he has no options left, Dawon acts. He makes a wild decision. Without any warning, he slams a palm into Jihan's chest. The blow launches Jihan clean away from the crowd. Jihan stumbles back in total shock. Dawon tells him to run. Whatever he is about to unleash, he cannot control it. If Jihan sticks around, he is only going to get seriously hurt. Within intense calm, Dawon pulls out the black lock from his last quest. He clutches it, remembering what this item actually does. For 10 minutes, this item completely overrides his free will. It turns him into a pure, system-controlled fighting machine. He becomes unstoppable, but at a terrible cost. A thug struts over to intimidate him. Dawon activates the lock. Instantly, a heavy, dark energy surges around them. The air thickens, everyone freezes. One guy lets out a terrified scream. When the others look, they freeze. They no longer see a student, they see a complete monster. He is like a living shadow, a true predator cloaked in complete darkness. Honestly, what follows is not a fight, it is a massacre. Taken over by the system, Dawon moves with terrifying, silent precision. Punches, kicks, stomps, he wipes them out like they are absolutely nothing. Their strongest members, a massive giant and a smug kid with glasses, get destroyed. The giant is launched across the field, while the four-eyed kid takes a brutal hit. He takes a fist straight to the face that nearly caves his skull in. Within seconds, only the leader is left. Furious, he charges in without thinking. Dawon does not even flinch. He catches the leader's punch effortlessly. He grabs the guy by the throat. As the leader starts to black out, it is over. Dawon's body remains perfectly motionless, but his mind is somewhere else entirely. Inside his own head, Dawon wakes up in a dark, unfamiliar room. A desk nearby holds a glowing computer screen turned on by itself. As he approaches the monitor, text slowly begins to appear. It is the administrator, the mysterious entity that gave him the system itself. Back in the real world, Erin is simply stargazing. She stands alone, far from the town chaos and the loud school recreation night, but her quiet peace is cut short when a creepy stranger appears. He steps right out of the shadows, meanwhile, inside a dreamlike space. Dawon is completely shocked that the administrator is finally talking to him. Normally, they just watch in total silence, but today they have one question. How has the power they gifted him changed his life? Dawon does not hold back. He vents about the absolute madness the system dumped on him. The endless battles, the constant danger, the pure stress. But then, breathing deeply, he admits the truth. This power actually gave him the strength to protect people, to stand proud and to fight. It made him a man he never thought he could ever become. More than that, he would have been dead ages ago if not for this very system saving his life. He genuinely thanks the mysterious administrator for everything. Now, with the first question answered, the administrator lets Dawon ask a question of his own. Meanwhile, in the real world, Ot Siop wakes up to a total nightmare. Bloody bodies lie scattered everywhere. Right in front of him, Dawon is holding the gang leader by the throat, looking completely soulless. Suddenly, he snaps the thug's arm. and sends him flying with a brutal kick. Ot Siop, severely hurt, cannot even crawl away. Trembling in absolute panic, the beaten leader grabs his phone and warns Dawon that the real boss is coming, a monster named Guakpal John. Ot Siop instantly remembers him from the reformatory, a terrifying psycho jailed for violent assault. Elsewhere, Aaron is cornered by a creepy guy whispering sick things, closing the distance fast. She freezes up, completely paralyzed as he shows his twisted desires, but right when hope is lost, Dawon bursts in to block him. Yes, this lunatic is actually Guakpal John, the dungeon boss himself. With the system taking total control, Dawon unleashes a relentless beatdown. Punch, kick, uppercut, combo after combo corners Guakpal John, leaving him wide open. Meanwhile, back in the eerie mental space, the entity keeps things incredibly vague, hiding their identity and why they chose Dawon for this system. The only solid answer is that he now holds the strength to protect people. With that, the vision fades. Back in the real world, Dawon snaps out of it, but he has zero memory of the fight before. He even notices Aaron standing there. Guakpal John lunges forward and blasts him backward. Just as Dawon tries to strike back, his mind goes dark again. Sudden, agonizing pain rips through his chest. System alerts warn him that auto battle overloaded his physical vessel, and the deadly backlash is starting. He gasps for air as his muscle fibers tear apart. Guakpal John wastes no time, brutally stomping on Dawon as he lies paralyzed. Trying to fight back only destroys his body further. Soon, Dawon collapses, screaming as intense pain tears him to pieces. Now, Guakpal John turns his filthy gaze toward Aaron, spitting vile threats. Dawon can only look on, burning with helpless fury, even with a shattered frame. Dawon drags himself back up. He shields Aaron from the beast. His skills might not even activate, but he has no other choice. He grabs Pal John with one hand, aiming for a heavy strike. But in this battered state, that one arm has zero power left. Even with his body failing and absolute pain tearing through him, he charges. Throwing away all defense, he rushes straight at John with pure fury. Every single blow restarts the agony, but his absolute rage pushes him further. Like a cornered beast, he unleashes a savage, relentless barrage of attacks. He chains blind spot strikes, completely overwhelming Pal John in mere seconds. With the dungeon clear and Aaron safe, Dawon finally collapses. Later, he wakes up in a quiet hotel room, completely shocked to be alive. Even crazier, Aaron is right there, holding his hand. He remembers nothing. It turns out Ji-han and Aaron carried him back after he fainted. They patched him up themselves. A normal hospital was way too risky. A public clinic after a gang war would definitely bring unwanted trouble. Luckily, his dungeon clearance rewards included both gold and silver keys. He used the silver key, unlocking a passive heal that works while sleeping. Thanks to that, his heavy injuries are already starting to mend. Still, he is way more focused on Aaron staying by his side. She actually fell asleep in his bed. He is not complaining. Meanwhile, Ji-han and Choi head to Jeonju Land, denying it is a date. But it totally is, since loud noises trigger Aaron. Theme parks are out. Instead, she and Dawon go grab food at a peaceful restaurant. There, she tells him she prefers calm nature over loud crowds. She loves stargazing, even if it means missing the big fireworks show. Or so she thinks. That night, Dawon takes her straight to the hotel rooftop. This is the absolute perfect spot to watch without any loudspeakers nearby. As the fireworks burst, Aaron praises his strength and genuine kindness. Naturally, Dawon gets incredibly embarrassed. He quickly changes the subject to the real reason they are here. From here, they have a gorgeous, peaceful view of Jeonju Land. You just know this peaceful rooftop moment is about to get shattered. Underworld factions are already preparing to strike back over his recent actions. And escaping the fallout this time will not be easy. Later on their bus ride back to Guanaco, a news report plays. It mentions a bear escaping a local facility. Sounds incredibly random. Or maybe not. Either way, Dawon is glad he secured that lock. Without it, things would have ended terribly, but there is a catch. The black lock item is still with him, but it is sealed. According to the system, he cannot use it until he finds its key. Once the bus reaches their destination, Dawon runs into Sen unexpectedly. It has been a while. She invites him to a restaurant meeting. The board on Bullies group is waiting there, ready to talk strategy. He reunites with Kang Seon, though Sei is absent for personal reasons. At the table, Seon reveals the rival bully council is planning something. The next day arrives, and this time, the representative of Boream Dong has to attend. Suspicious, not at all, when asked if anything unusual happened. Kang and Dawon admit to the construction site incident from months ago. Dawon even confesses to taking down the area representative back then. Kang laughs it off at first, thinking it is just a joke. But his face drops when he realizes his friend is dead serious. Seon steps in, saying this alone probably is not the reason. But another representative was also called in, someone who got involved too. Without knowing, they crossed paths with someone in Dawon's circle. Elsewhere, a shady character named Lee Go-yoon is finally facing the music. He is tied to a chair inside a dark batting cage, terrified. Standing over him is the massive Swang representative, Kang In-gang. In-gang demands to know who Go-yoon leaked their little request to. Go-yoon denies everything and actually dares to ask for a refund. He claims the job failed, but In-gang does not even argue. Instead, he walks away, offering a refund in a very different form. Fastballs straight from the pitching machine, right to Go-yoon's face. In-gang drops some coins in, leaving him to scream. Outside, he meets up with his right-hand man, Choi Jin-ho. What actually pisses him off is having to attend the meeting. All because some loudmouth newbie representative is starting to make waves. Later that night, Dawon walks Seon home, taking the quiet route. Seon casually mentions how much stronger he seems lately. Suddenly, a bizarre noise from a dark alley cuts them off. They spin around and freeze. It looks like a massive bear. The same beast from the news, but wait, that is no bear. It is just some guy wearing an incredibly realistic bear costume. He tried to stop some punks, and now they want blood. As the delinquents corner him, Dawon decides to step in. With a super smooth move using his newest skill, he drops them all instantly. The bear man thanks Dawon and quickly slips into the shadows. Pulling off his mask, he quietly watches Dawon walk away. He clearly knows him from childhood, maybe someone everyone thought was long gone. Wait, remember, that body was never actually identified back then. It all fits. The next morning, Dawon arrives for the meeting. He looks exhausted, carrying a heavy weight on his shoulders. And he actually walks into the bully council, meeting completely alone. Shinhai chose to skip this one, trusting Dawon's skills. Once the meeting starts, the mediator lays out the main issue. The Swangdong faction recently ambushed our boy Dawon. They want to know who is pulling the strings here. Now they are demanding real answers from Kang In-gang himself. The three thugs who jumped Dawon belong to Kwang Dong, his crew. In-gang tries to play dumb, but the mediator drops a bomb. This solid intel came straight from the high headquarters. Dawon suddenly stands up, directly calling him out and demanding some real answers. He wants a straight answer. Was In-gang the one who ordered Ji-han to be hurt? Offended, In-gang fires off a devastating strike that sends Dawon flying backward. He blocks it but barely. Dawon is left crouched on the floor. Forget the issue. In-gang boldly declares they should just move on. The bully sneers that there won't be a Boream Dong rep around much longer anyway. He rushes in with a follow-up punch, but Dawon catches it single-handedly. No counterattack, shocking everyone, including In-gang. Dawon just stands there. Instead, he is waiting, and right on cue, a system notification pops up. It tells him to survive for 3 minutes without launching any attacks. The more damage he takes, the more his defense stats will grow. Though confused, he trusts the system and begins provoking In-gang to go all out. Just as it is working, the mediator suddenly calls the fight to a halt. It turns out headquarters was monitoring the entire meeting through hidden cameras. The mediator was actually acting on direct orders from the higher-ups. Frustrated, In-gang storms out, while Dawon is told to stay behind. As the new Borodong representative, he is handed a heavy responsibility. He must collect contributions for the Bully Council and create a profit model in 2 weeks. Afterward, Dawon cannot help but question the bizarre quest he just completed. Why did the system stop him from fighting? Was someone else fighting for him? It sounds completely ridiculous, but surprisingly, it is not too far from the truth. But elsewhere, chaos. In-gang's information agency is suddenly under attack. Han Seok-young has completely wiped out In-gang's men all by himself. Now he stands face to face with the neighborhood representative on a rooftop. Headquarters has gathered absolute proof of In-gang's dirty, illegal business. Because of this, Seok-young has been deployed to permanently eliminate him. Meanwhile, Dawon meets up with Seon and Kang Si-hoon at the park. Together, they start brainstorming ways to fulfill the council's tough demands. Seon explains that places like Suwon-dong and Sillim-dong are exempt from paying. This is because those specific crews serve highly specialized functions. For example, Sillim-dong works directly under the command of headquarters. They act as enforcers, hunting down and wiping out any local traitors. That sounds pretty epic, but let's check back on that rooftop battle. The clash between Seok-young and In-gang has turned into a brutal brawl. Seok-young clearly dominates the fight, offering his opponent multiple chances to surrender. He wants In-gang to cooperate with the council, but the man refuses. The loser just keeps swinging. Finally, Seok-young beats him down completely. In-gang is left lying barely conscious right at the rooftop's edge. Meanwhile, Ki Jin-ho and his crew pull up outside the building. They intend to grab all the classified data before Sillim-dong can secure it. Too bad for them, Kim Gi-jin is standing right in their path. Given Unsung's terrifying reputation, Gi-jin is clearly not someone to mess with. It is over, or so Seok-young thinks, turning his back on his opponent. But in a desperate, wicked move, In-gang slowly staggers to his feet. He grabs Seok-young with his remaining strength and drags them both off the edge. Seok-young hung from the rooftop by a single hand, dangling over the drop as In-gang sneered down at him, completely confident. He taunted that if Seok-young died, it would trigger absolute chaos, and then he confessed something worse. He actually killed his own younger brother this exact way years ago. That twisted confession lit an absolute fire in Seok-young. Fueled by rage, he hauled himself up, taking every heavy hit In-gang threw without flinching. Then he casually tossed In-gang around. The fight became completely one-sided, and Seok-young officially stripped him of his representative title, handing over agency control directly to headquarters. Work done, he walked out. Outside, rain poured down as he phoned a headquarters contact. Apparently, everything he did for the council was for his younger brother. That explained his sudden fury at In-gang's sick admission. Even so, Seok-young insisted his ultimate loyalty belonged to headquarters. The voice on the other end accepted that, passing on a fresh assignment. Another target he needed to eliminate within his assigned territory. Meanwhile, Dawon finally returned to his apartment after a long day dealing with council business. He was surprised to find Seok-young waiting outside. That was pretty concerning, considering the chaos that had just occurred. While waiting, Seok-young had taken a quick call from Kim Gi-jin. All of Siwon-dong's forces had been wiped out, but there was a catch. The deputy Ki Jin-ho escaped during the chaos once Dawon arrived. Seok-young followed him inside. Playing the good host, Dawon offered tea. Before getting straight to the point of this unexpected late-night visit, Turns out, Seok-young wanted to pitch a new Boreumdong business model. He suggested they take over the agency, formerly run by Siwon-dong. The operation had some shady history, but Dawon could keep it clean. While still bringing in serious money, it was a pretty tempting offer. Easily the best deal on the table. Still, Dawon politely refused. Regardless of the money, he refused to touch anything remotely illegal. More importantly, he refused to drag his Boreum crew into danger. Right on cue, Seok-young's phone rang with an update from Gi-jin. Apparently, that entire information agency had just been burned completely to ash. Talk about a close call. Dawon had absolutely made the right decision. The fire screamed Sandong. Clearly, they wanted to bury something major. And it really seemed like Ki Jin-ho was the one pulling all the strings. Based on how everything aligned, he was likely the real mastermind. Missing the full picture, Gi-jin didn't realize Jin-ho was incredibly close. Just one street away, the slippery deputy was making his escape. Struggling to carry his injured boss, Kang, during the earlier chaos. Jin-ho heard of Kang's defeat and bolted, helping his leader flee. If nothing else, the guy was fiercely loyal. The next day, Dawon headed over to Boreum High School, since both Si-yeon and Sae-hee studied there. And Sae-hee was currently missing. Si-yeon requested Dawon come to them. Fair play to her, though she definitely could have asked a bit more nicely. Wrapping up his own classes, Dawon rushed over to meet her. Before school ended, all that running left him pretty dehydrated, and after chugging down several soft drinks, nature came calling hard. Panicked, he bolted into the school to find a restroom. He almost barged into the girls' restroom by mistake, but caught himself just in time, or so he thought. The door he picked next turned out to be another girls' restroom, and this one actually had people inside. What kind of school was this? Turns out the full name was Boreum Girls High School. Yeah, he was totally doomed, trying to escape. The scene, while apologizing like crazy, he ran straight into the massive flood of students being let out. Talk about terrible timing, but then, get ready for this, a twist. Straight out of a rom-com, a girl with white hair stopped him mid-panic. Narrated his entire blunder out loud, and then grabbed his arm. She casually told him he was just her type. Suddenly, Dawon went from public embarrassment to living the absolute dream. After he finally found an empty bathroom and did his business, he stepped out to see that same girl still waiting there. She said she overheard him talking to himself earlier about Sae-hee and that she knew where he went, but there was a catch. She would only take him there if he played along as her fake boyfriend. For the day, he had to do all the classic sweet couple stuff, like holding hands, photo booths, and theme park dates. Oh, the absolute horror for poor Dawon. It must have been tough. She dragged him from one date spot to another, photo studios, indoor amusement parks, manga cafes, keeping up the heavy romantic gestures. Meanwhile, Si-yeon was blowing up his phone trying to reach him, but Dawon was too distracted to look. Finally, they reached the last stop, a snooker lounge. The girl agreed to reveal where Sae-hee was after this game. But right as she lined up her shot, some creepy older guys came over to bother her. One of them tried to hit on her, and then things flipped. She swung her cue stick back with enough force to make that guy regret every decision he made that day. Before she struck, though, she said something strange. She called Dawon by his actual name, telling him to save her again. Wait, was she really the person in the bear costume? No way. Right, that would completely shatter the whole maybe it was his dad theory. One of the creeps at the snooker lounge, clearly furious about getting humiliated, raised his fist to strike her, but before he could even think of throwing that punch, Dawon grabbed his arm and slammed him to his knees with pure brute strength. Calm but firm, Dawon told her they would talk later, but first they had to get out. He kicked the guy cold and turned to his next opponent, a huge dude built like a wall, normally a problem unless you have a passive skill that completely ignores defense. One clean critical hit later, the giant went down. another thug tried to sneak up from behind with a cue stick, but Dawon smashed his weapon with a quick, blind spot strike. The thug pulled out a glass bottle, ready to stab while another approached from the other side wielding a small axe. He actually called it heaven's best axe. Cute. Dawon picked up a cue stick and used his weapon mastery to demolish the bottle guy, then showed off his throwing skills by knocking Axe Boy out with a flurry of snooker balls. With those guys, Dawon grabbed the girl's hand and led her out of the lounge, standing outside. He tried to remember where he had seen her before, but she kept teasing him, refusing to give a straight answer. Before they parted ways, she offered one final hint. All the places they visited that day were jobs where Sae worked, telling him to remember her the next time they meet. So maybe not the bear after all. Following the clue, Dawon tracked Sae down, who, by the way, was dressed pretty weirdly. After finishing his last shift, Sae finally explained everything. He lived with his grandmother, who ran a small snack shop. A few months back, a gang named Heaven's Best started showing up, demanding protection money from all the local businesses. The cash they wanted kept climbing, forcing Sae to work multiple jobs to pay them off and protect his grandmother. That selfless sacrifice hits hard, but things took a dark turn when they arrived at the shop and found his grandmother collapsed on the floor. The gang had beaten her up for not paying them, even though it was not even their collection day. Dawon was absolutely furious, and suddenly everything finally clicked. The guys he thrashed earlier mentioned Heaven's Best, but his quest was still not complete. Those punks were just one small branch. He had to wipe out the entire gang. Determined to act, he asked Sae if he knew where their hideout was. Unfortunately, he did not. The only time Sae ever saw them was when they came around for collections. Dawon asked why they did not just move the shop somewhere else, but Sae explained that his grandmother had run it for decades. Too many memories were wrapped up in this place, and in the food itself. Dawon finally tried a bite and nearly gagged. That explained the lack of customers. Then, out of nowhere, Cian appeared right behind him. She was furious, and with good reason. He had ignored every single one of her messages all day. She had been waiting at school, and Dawon knew he was in massive trouble. Thinking fast, he shoved a piece of that terrible food right into her mouth. The taste was so shocking it stunned her into silence. Crisis barely averted. Later, Sen, Kang, Dawon, and Sae met up at the snack shop for a group meeting. Once they heard everything Sae had been dealing with, everyone agreed that the Heaven's Best gang had to be dealt with. Sae, however, strongly opposed taking any action against them and insisted they drop it. The meeting ended right there. The next morning, Sae walked into the shop and was completely shocked. The entire Boromai crew was already there working. They had discussed it and decided their group's new business model would revolve around this snack shop. Not only would they help the business grow, but when the gang showed up again, they would be ready. Naturally, the very first thing that had to change was the food. Dawon brought in Jaihan, who had some professional culinary training from a fancy academy. Once he started cooking, even Kang abandoned his strict diet, eating like there was no tomorrow. 4 days later, the gang finally showed up for their collection at night, but instead of the frail grandmother they were expecting, they were met by Kang and Dawon. Kang easily handled the lackeys, while Dawon faced off against the squad leader Umji. The guy was stronger than your average thug, sure, but Dawon was not exactly your average high schooler either. Then came the time for the real show. Dawon activates his skill fast. That is literally its name. It cranks his agility way up for 30 seconds, disabling all his other active skills. During that crucial window, worth it, Dawon suddenly zips around his opponent like an absolute blur, completely overwhelming him. When the skill wears off, Dawon finishes him with a brutal multi-strike combo that knocks the guy out cold. With the thugs handled, Dawon and Kang move on to the second phase of their plan, heading straight to Moonlight Room Salon, a Heaven's Best Hide out while they wait outside. Their clever setup finally kicks in. Dawon previously tricked those beaten thugs into believing Boromai was a massive syndicate heading their way, heavily armed and dangerous. He even left them loosely bound so they could easily text a warning. Why? Simple. When the gang gets that alert, panic spreads. They gather inside armed, which is exactly what Dawon wanted. Now he can make full use of a certain passive skill that grants massive bonuses against armed opponents. Since it is passive, it stacks with his agility boost perfectly. Inside, dozens of heavily armed men stand waiting. Dawon walks in and somehow pulls out a sharp katana. Honestly, no clue where he hid that. Without hesitating, he activates his swordsmanship skill and charges ahead. It is not even a contest. He tears through the crowd like a whirlwind of cold steel, completely humiliating every single one of them. But even with all this rage, nothing changes. Dawon still refuses to kill. Ever the mindful fighter, he uses the blunt side of his sword and the hilt to knock thugs cold instead of dealing lethal blows. With clean, precise movements, he easily shatters their weapons to clear a path, leaving the defenseless goons for Kang. Moving like a true master, he cuts down every threat in sight. But just as he nears the end of the hallway, one thug lands a lucky hit. His katana snaps in half from a heavy metal bat strike. Without losing momentum, Dawon pulls out an extendable baton and keeps on swinging, dropping guys left and right. Spotting a couple of remaining thugs still standing, he pauses to ask them a quick question. Seriously, would you dare lie to a guy looking like that? Afterward, he calls out to Kang, leaving him to sweep up the remaining trash while he heads deeper into the complex to end this tonight. While Dawon descends to the lower floor, Kang finds himself locked in a brutal clash. His opponent is the ruthless second in command of Heaven's Best. Meanwhile, Dawon calmly knocks on the boss's basement door, polite as ever, but when he steps inside, his entire vibe shifts. He is here to deliver a lesson, and he is not leaving until the boss learns. Meanwhile, inside Sihi's home, memories flood back. Memories of why he swore off violence. As a kid, he fought bullies to protect the weak, but it always ended with his family getting burdened with massive settlement fees. His proud but poor grandfather literally worked himself to death to cover the costs. That loss changed Sihi forever. Back in the present, Kang is getting thrown around like a rag doll. Choi is a complete monster, towering over Kang and using his sheer size to dominate the brawl. Every single time Kang stands up, he gets violently slammed back down, yet he absolutely refuses to stay down. Choi eventually grows tired of playing, offering Kang a deal is on the table. Serve under him to survive. Kang's answer, a classic middle finger. Plain and simple. Just as Choi prepares the finishing blow, Sihi unexpectedly steps through the door. Finally learning his grandfather was always proud of him, changed everything for Sihi. He realized fighting is not wrong when it is done to protect others. His glasses are off, his hair is tied back, and his expression says it all. He is ready. Honestly, he is radiating pure Titan Slayer energy as he steps up. Kang remembers the first time they met, about a year ago. Sihi joined the Borang Bully group as Kang's junior for a pretty bizarre reason. Oddly enough, his sole goal in joining was to avoid fighting. He wore glasses to avoid eye contact and loud shirts to look weird. He even grew a wild beard so people would leave him alone. Basically, every little detail was calculated to stay entirely off everyone's radar. Kang never judged him for that. He actually kind of respected his choices. So seeing him step up to defend someone else now, truly mind-blowing. Summoning the last of his fading strength, Kang tries to warn him. He gasps that Choi is dangerous, then collapses as Sihi turns around. Choi throws a punch, but Sihi cleanly blocks it, along with a follow-up kick. He blocks a jab too. It is a rough start, but he is adjusting fast. Downstairs, Dawon hesitates, staring at the disabled old man in front of him. He questions whether he can actually bring himself to hit someone like that. Dawon opts for a non-lethal stun smash, but the old man braces with his crutch. He counters with a sharp palm strike and a kick, throwing Dawon backward. Dawon crashes into the wall. Even with one bad leg, this old man hits hard. Upstairs, Choi grabs Sihee by the wrists and starts talking trash. But Sihee vows to crush anyone who hurts his loved ones. He breaks free with a brutal chin kick, then drives a boot into Choi's stomach. Choi goes down. Seeing this, Kang remembers a past conversation with him. Sihee once swore off violence because he loses control in a fight. He becomes a beast, focused solely on absolute destruction. Sihee grabs Choi by the head. Downstairs, Dawon gets a sudden reality check. He feels completely foolish for hesitating just because his opponent is old. The man is a vicious villain. There is no room for sympathy here. Both heroes lock eyes with their enemies, ready to end this. Sihee completely finishes Choi off, but Dawon is still struggling downstairs. The old boss is fast, dodging every swing. He counters smoothly, slipping past Dawon's guard. He even swings his crutch like a club. Dawon starts taking heavy damage. He tries demanding answers about why they are destroying local family businesses. Realizing he won't get out alive anyway, the old man actually starts talking. He reveals that wealthy elites plan to buy up the entire neighborhood. They want to redevelop the whole area into a luxury district. To avoid paying fair prices, they hired local thugs to terrorize the shops. They want to force the owners to sell for absolute pennies. And a squad of goons is already on their way to destroy everything. Destroying the shop, the man even found it funny that such a poor place managed to keep paying them off. This was the final straw. No matter what, he could never forgive those who mocked he and her family like that. Burning with rage, he charges, speed booster on. He leaps. Dawon lands a quick punch and kick, easily dodging every single counter. He watches him, predictable patterns. Dawon plots his next move. He baits the leader into throwing a kick and a jump, dodging both before shutting off the booster flash. He activates Falcon Drop and completely stuns the boss. With a heavy kick, before the boss can recover, Dawon swipes his crutch. A stun slam finishes it. Heaven's Best is completely done. As for the thugs sent to the snack shop, a massive beating is coming. Dawon leaves his allies to guard the area. Flashback to earlier, shocking news arrives. The first time she ever met Dawon was at a mixer where she was only hoping to meet Jihan, drawn by his rumored combat skills. Instead, she was disappointed by a timid, bullied kid. But when Dawon unleashed his skills that night, CM scrambled to find a representative for Borang and picked him as the substitute. The original choice was Jihan. Back at the snack shop, the thugs are done. One gangster charges Jihan with a crowbar, but Jihan completely shatters his jaw with a mega stance, knocking him flat. Since the thugs are armed, Jihan grabs the crowbar to face them. Before they can react, he blurs right through, dismantling them effortlessly with multiple fighting styles. His allies worry. He is using too much force, but he won't stop. They deserved it. Meanwhile, the brutal fight between Dawon and the old gang leader continues. Despite being beaten bloody and losing his crutch, the old man stands up for one final gamble. After boasting about his gang's glory days, he suddenly pulls a gun. Why he didn't use it sooner is a mystery, aiming directly at Dawon. He growls that Dawon knows far too much about their crimes and simply cannot live, but Dawon has a plan. His phone has been recording every single thing since he entered the base, streaming the live feed straight to another phone at the snack shop. If Dawon dies, his friends will release the evidence, and Heaven's Best is heading straight to prison. Dawon sets 3 demands. First, the gang must return all the extorted cash taken as protection fees. Second, they must guarantee that no locals are hurt during the neighborhood's upcoming redevelopment. And third, the gang must get out of this area forever. Backing away slightly, Dawon tells him to decide fast, because time is running out. Suddenly, the old man collapses, dropping his gun and hits the floor. Outside in the hall, Dawon finally breathes again. The heavy terror of having a gun pointed right at his chest fades away. He honestly thought his life was over, yet their dangerous mission is complete. The Heaven's Best gang is officially finished. System notification pops up to confirm the quest is finished, and a reward appears. Right before Dawon's eyes, a brilliant blue light glows as his reward. D1 stands frozen in pure confusion as a massive, glowing prize wheel suddenly emerges. Shaking off his doubt, he eagerly spins the giant wheel to claim his mystery prize. It lands on a red question mark, just a rusted key. Total junk, he mutters, cursing the cheap piece of metal after his hard work. Just then, Kang and Sihee arrive, confirming the clash is officially over. D1 chuckles. Did Kang make a new buddy during the chaos? Wearing those classic sunglasses, Sihee is instantly recognizable. They quickly regroup with Yeon and Jihan to chat. Turns out the thugs were easy work, but Jihan spots Kang is bleeding. He urges his friend to get treated, making stubborn Kang flare up. Why boss anyone around? He is clearly the weakest here. Determined to grow, Kang announces he is leaving on a journey. D1 pats his shoulder, joking that he should just focus on studying. Suddenly, Sihee yells his thanks, promising to repay them. Honestly, the crew just wanted a free dinner in return. That leaves a deep impression. Later that night, D1 heads home. Exhausted, he collapses onto his apartment floor the moment he steps inside. Pure agony, his body spasms, feeling like death is knocking at his door. But his passive healing kicks in, rapidly stitching him back together. A total cheat code. The next day, they meet Sihee. Though the thugs lost, the building with Sihee's snack bar was sold. At least they got some pretty decent compensation this time. Luckily, the owner inherited other properties. They relocated the snack bar to a prime, busy downtown spot. D1 gently asks if leaving is hard, given all the old memories. Sihee insists moving won't erase the past, promising to build new memories. He is building a new life with his grandma, then brings up a plan. Specifically, D1's old pitch to turn this humble shop into a major cash source for Borang. D1 admits he originally lied just to recruit him, but now wants to execute it. Rewinding a week, D1 met up with Han, the leader of Simdong. He refuses to pay a single cent to the Bully Council. Han predicted this, suggesting they join forces with Borang to fight back. Silimdong will monitor the Bully Council from the shadows, tracking down potential traitors. D1 nods, realizing he is signing up to be a street informant. To prove himself, he must clear out Chungnyang Tech. That school is the only place refusing to bow to the council. Delinquents run wild there, and only a myth known as Dragon maintains order. Stepping onto campus, a system alert reveals he has entered Dragon's nest. He stands completely alone, wondering how on earth he will survive this dungeon. Han warned him that this job means facing either the boss or the whole neighborhood. Why reject the council? Han explains joining was voluntary. They simply refused to join. Now, headquarters wants to test D1's combat strength. Rumors say they want to expand. So D1 is tasked with crushing them before they can make a move. It is the ultimate playground to see exactly how strong he has become. He was faced with a choice: fight an entire high school alone, or somehow find a way to pay off the Bully Council. He chose the hard way. First stop, Dragon's Nest. He walked straight into Chungnyang Tech. High that afternoon, surprisingly, the halls were dead quiet, giving him plenty of time to think. He figured the fastest victory meant taking out the top dog first. While hunting around, he spotted two guys in the restroom, smoking and bragging about beating up middle school kids. D1 stepped in, giving them a very simple choice: answer his questions, and things stay peaceful. Towering over them, he demanded to know where their boss was. Before they could answer, a massive mob surrounded him. D1 warned them one last time: just tell him where the leader is, and he'd leave quietly, but his attitude ticked them off. And just like that, an all-out brawl erupted, even though he was massively outnumbered. He absolutely wrecked them. Once the dust settled, he sighed, repeating that they could have avoided all of this. Then, a quest popped up. Dungeon break. To clear it, he needed to beat 458 normal enemies, 12 elites, 2 royal guards, and the boss. There went his quick shortcut, but wait, a follow-up notification completely changed things. Only the boss actually had to fall to clear the dungeon, psyching himself up. Again, D1 was ready to charge the main office. Right then, one of the groaning students muttered that they were only first years and had absolutely no idea where the leader stayed. He pointed him to the second years, annoyed that nobody would cooperate without getting punched first. D1 had to beat down the second years as well. He'd cleared 11 normal mobs, but this tracking game was exhausting. He needed a faster way. Right on cue, another screen appeared. He could earn bonus points by taking down extra targets, with scaling rewards like massive stat boosts to his attack, defense, and even an ultimate hidden skill. Realizing this was a golden level-up opportunity, D1 pivoted. Instead of just hunting one person, he began searching for the entire student body. Meanwhile, a few local bullies were caught shaking down a middle school kid for his cash. D1 stepped in right then. Talk about perfect timing. D1 muttered that there really wasn't one decent guy in this whole high school, but hey, that meant he could go completely all out. Without a second thought, he absolutely demolished the punks blocking his path. The kid he saved whispered a quick thanks and immediately bolted. D1 stood there, feeling slightly let down. Those 4 were just bottom-tier mobs. He started wondering where the elite brawlers were keeping themselves. By now, he'd already beaten 79 normal enemies out of 458. Honestly, he had completely lost track of how long he had been grinding. One of the beaten punks dragged himself up and spat out a question. Who was he? D1 casually dropped a fake name, telling them to come find him. For payback, that name Juryong sparked absolute terror, giving D1 his first real lead on a stronger opponent. Later that day, after dealing with low-level enemies cleared, D1 got a call from a sweaty, post-workout Cian. She wasn't trying to sell gym gear, but she definitely dropped some vital intel. Apparently, most of the cash flowing through Chungnyeong Yunsong came straight from extortion and street theft. The looted valuables all ended up with a guy named Choi Juryong, who is in full control of Chungnyeong Yunsong Tech High. This guy clearly had a terrifying grip on the bullies, making them steal for him without hesitation. Cian gently warned D1 that if crashing this school alone got too dangerous, walking away was perfectly fine, but quitting was never an option for D1. Mind, his stats stood at 231 attack, 251 defense, and 231 agility. And 201 spirit were nothing compared to the massive 300 boost he'd get by finishing the quest. That huge payoff made the struggle worth it. With his insane recovery ability, even a short nap worked absolute wonders. So D1 quickly drifted off to recharge. Elsewhere, one of the battered thugs was busy crying to his boss about their failed extortion attempt. Instead of getting any sympathy, a brutal slap sent him crashing back. The guy delivering the beating had long, vibrant orange hair alongside cold, lifeless eyes and a massive dragon tattooed across his back. Meet the dungeon's absolute boss, Choi Juryong. Looking at his bald underling, Juryong demanded an update on the mysterious fighter tearing through Sangmongdong. His bald lackey explained that all the fake names given by their boys proved one truth. This was no team raid, a single fighter did it. Luckily, one of their defeated goons managed to grab a quick, blurry photo of the culprit. D1, staring at the photo, Juryong gave a cold order to track him down and bring him in, but his bald assistant was already steps ahead. He had plastered D1's face across the entire school, putting everyone on high alert. Now D1 was a wanted target, completely surrounded by hyped-up students. While he was just trying to sleep, suddenly Dawon woke up fully energized and radiating power thanks to his passive healing. Meanwhile, across town, members of Cheongmyeongdong were busy looting houses and threatening innocent people. But all of their petty crimes ground to a halt the moment a massive alert pinged their phones. The ultimate priority was finding Dawon and dragging him directly to Juryeong, laughing that their target was just napping. The bloodthirsty students sprinted back. Right then, Dawon finally opened his eyes. Incredibly annoyed at being snapped out of an amazing dream, half asleep, he muttered a few complaints before instantly realizing something was seriously wrong. Boxed in by a massive crowd of students, he broke a sweat, wondering how they tracked him. From the mob, one student stepped out and ordered Dawon to yield quietly. This was no ordinary punk, but Chai Chun-chu, one of their elite fighters. While Dawon was genuinely thrilled to face a high-ranking foe, he knew that taking on this entire crowd at once was pure suicide. Feigning cooperation, he stepped toward the elevator with them, but it was all a clever trap. Dawon suddenly unleashed a deadly combo of 3 blind spot strikes, utilizing the chaos in the stairwell to make a run for it, flattening another thug along the way. But Chun-chu pushed through his own men and sprinted after him, determined to handle this battle himself. Trading blows and trash talk, Dawon realized his elite opponent up to his fearsome name. Yet, after surviving countless brutal brawls, Dawon still felt confident. Even when facing a heavy hitter like this, ending the fight with a crushing falcon drop, he smashes the elite monster and keeps moving, planning to hunt down the remaining small fry. But the chaos never stops. Suddenly, 2 more elite bosses block his path, Shim Sang-soo and Juryeong Ji-jun, both backed by their own private armies of low-level thugs, surrounded on all sides. Dawon breaks into a cold sweat, realizing this might be his final stand. Later, bloody and barely standing, Dawon stumbles from the stairwell. He somehow dragged himself through both elite monsters and 28 extra minions. He is running completely on pure adrenaline. His resources are bottomed out, 45 health left out of 11,500. And his mana is just as dry. A gentle breeze could knock him out cold, just as he tries to breathe. A sleek motorcycle screeches to a violent halt. It is Sia shouting at him to jump on before the entire world collapses on them. If he stays, she warns him he is going to regret it. They blast off, but their escape is cut incredibly short. A fresh gang of bikers corners them. Leading the pack is another dangerous elite boss, Kim Kyung-gu. Dawon feels absolute dread, not for his own life but for Sia. He dragged her straight into his personal hell, putting them both in extreme danger. He tries to play hero, telling her to run, but she is not having it. Instead, she tells him to hang on tight, because things are about to get chaotic. With a wild smirk, she revs the engine. Meanwhile, Juryeong hears that the intruder is currently fighting multiple top elites and their massive squads near Cheongmyeong, barely even remembering who these guys are. The boss casually asks if they can handle it, though they do not understand why Dawon is causing this ruckus. They know he is alone. Believing no one could survive this with raw power alone, the bald henchman figures everything is wrapped up. Honestly, he would have been right if Dawon was still fighting alone, but everything has changed. Weaving past Kim Kyung-gu, catching him off guard with her intense aura, Sia breaks clean out of the trap while Dawon clings on for dear life. He can only admire her crazy driving, hoping the worst is over. But trust me, this gang is far from finished. Kim Kyung-gu, absolutely loving the thrill of the hunt, starts closing the gap, screaming threats at them. Sia tells Dawon to brace himself once again. Weaving through dense traffic like a pro, she manages to gain a small lead, but that only fuels the riders behind them. These guys are not just street thugs, they are elite, highly trained specialists in high-speed pursuit, so she changes tactics, decelerating sharply. She lets a biker catch up just enough for Dawon to slam a traffic cone right onto his skull. The other riders want to ram them, but Kim Kyung-gu has a much more sadistic plan. He wants to see how far they will fly if hit by a steel chain at full throttle, sending 2 riders ahead to trap them. Near the overpass, while Dawon panics, Sia pulls off an insane, gravity-defying stunt, slamming the front brakes, flipping the motorcycle midair, and swinging the heavy rear wheel straight into the oncoming goons. A brutal crunch leaves them completely unconscious. Without missing a single beat, she throttles forward, absolutely determined to keep driving. She was willing to risk it all. Kyung-gu watched them fade away into the distance, but he did not even chase them yet. He knew this area too well, figuring they were heading straight into a dead end. Once the gang arrived, they found an empty space and assumed the 2 were just hiding inside. With their motorcycle, confident they would have to come out eventually, Kyung-gu scattered sharp nails across the exit to trap them. Then, a strange noise caught their attention, the loud roar of a motorcycle engine. Coming from right above them, everyone looked up just as Sia and Dawon crashed through a high window, landing directly behind the gang. Panicking, Kyung-gu scrambled for his ride, knowing Juryong would absolutely lose his mind if they escaped. He screamed at his guys to stop the duo at any cost, even if they had to ram them off the road. But during the chase, he suddenly realized he was tricked. The very same nails he used to trap Sia were now scattered all over the road, courtesy of Dawon. Kyung-gu and his men wiped out completely, crashing face first into an incredibly embarrassing defeat. After everything, Dawon threw up from pure exhaustion, but still thanked Sia for saving his skin. Gasping heavily between words, Sia calmly reminded him that he was free to walk away whenever, since he had already done enough acting as the representative of Bordong. Still, she wondered why he kept risking his life like this. Honestly, this moment made Dawon reflect deeply. He questioned his motives. Was it the penalty, the deep hunger to get stronger, a sudden urge for justice, or protecting his friends? Even he had no clue. The truth is, he did not know. When Sia pressed him, Dawon admitted he lacked a clear reason, feeling completely unsure why he was pushing this far. For now he just wanted to walk his own path. Hearing those words, Sia froze. Dawon noticed her expression and asked if he said something strange. She shook her head, explaining she had simply heard those exact words before from a suit-wearing guy who swore he would start living entirely on his own terms. That man happened to be the previous representative of Bordong. Sia could barely believe he was leaving, utterly lost on how they would survive without him. He told her not to worry, promising he would not be gone forever. Staring into the warm sunset, he softly remarked that Sia was far too reckless to lead, and Sahi did not care for violence either. He advised her to find a worthy successor instead and make them the new representative of Bor. Handing over his motorcycle, he departed. Now, in the present, Sia woke up one morning, feeling a heavy weight on her stomach. She looked down to find Dawon fast asleep in her lap, dreaming about delicious pork belly while aggressively squeezing her stomach. Eventually, Dawon woke up, nursing a giant red bump on his forehead. Looking around in confusion, he spotted Sia wearing a cute apron. Realizing he was at her place, he panicked. Apparently, he had passed out mid-sentence right after his big speech, and no matter what Sia did, he just would not wake up. Since her apartment was close, she hauled him inside. She told him breakfast was ready and urged him to eat. Staring at the massive feast, Dawon asked if she cooked everything. Sia admitted she only made the stew, and her mother handled all the rest. Dawon gets curious, asking if her parents had anything to say about him staying over. Sia casually mentions her parents are away, leaving them completely alone. That gets Dawon completely flustered, and honestly, can you blame him? Then she asks what he plans to do now that the Cheongmyeongdong gang knows his face. But Dawon shrugs it off, playing it cool like it is no big deal. After all, they still do not know his name, though he knows they won't stay quiet. Going headfirst into battle again is way too risky right now. So he decides to take a step back and quietly watch everything unfold from a safe distance. He quickly changes the subject to praise Sia's cooking. Her soybean paste stew is delicious, and watching him eat eagerly makes Sia say she won't stop him from fighting Chung Nyangdong, but he has to make a deal. He must keep his promise to rest up, but then she drops a heavy, unexpected hint that she is still hiding a secret from him, catching him totally off guard. Feeling a bit shy, she admits that making him Bordong's representative was the right call. It really was. Dawon tries to play it cool, joking that her request felt more like a threat. Meanwhile, Sia silently wonders how things would be if their old representative came back. She wants to ask Dawon about it, but immediately stops when she notices him drifting off. He is fast asleep now, completely worn out. But a quiet worry still lingers. After all, she made him take the job. It was only supposed to be temporary, yet the thought of him leaving makes her sad. She cannot explain why she feels this way. Later that night, Dawon heads home. He is still totally exhausted, even after sleeping. But his exhaustion instantly vanishes when he finds his front door standing wide open. Inside, everything is completely trashed. Panicked, he grabs his phone to call the police. But before he can dial, a massive guy with two-tone hair steps out from the bathroom. Meet Song Kai-han, one of the elite royal guards ruling Qingyangdong. Stunned, a furious Dawon demands to know how this absolute bastard even found his apartment. Kai-han sneers, explaining that Dawon forgot to log out at a PC cafe. His home address was displayed in his profile details, making this entire break-in incredibly simple. They cleared the place out. Enraged, Dawon swears he won't let this slide. But Kai-han couldn't care less. He is only here to deliver orders. With a cruel grin, he promises to leave Dawon half dead so he can't run. But as Dawon prepares to fight back, he suddenly notices something is missing. His family photo is gone. Blinded by sudden fury, he demands to know where it is. Kai-han shrugs, acting like he forgot all about some stupid picture. He ignores him. Dawon remembers her warning. Most of the Qingyangdong crew are weak, but their top 3 are real monsters. There is their terrifyingly strong leader, Chu Weng, along with his 2 brutal, top-tier enforcers. Di Yongwoo and Song Kai-han, the boss and his personal royal guards. Realizing the truth, Dawon quickly steels himself. Kai-han keeps mocking him, playing dumb about the stolen photo. But without a single second of hesitation, Dawon strikes. He grabs the bastard by the face and slams his head violently into the concrete floor. He unleashes a powerful strike to smash him into the floor, but Kai-han slips the attack easily and drives a hard knee right into Dawon's face. Grinning, he mocks him, asking if he wants his memories back or just a broken skull. Meanwhile, over at Chungtek High, things are getting tense. Jurayang is chewing out 2 low-level thugs for barely bringing back anything from Dawon's place. Shaking, the guys explain there was basically nothing worth taking. Still, Jurayang cannot understand why anyone would care about stealing a simple family photo. Once he hears this was actually Kai-han's bright idea, he gets pretty annoyed. He complains that this is a massive waste of time. He chucks the picture onto the table, and the back of the frame suddenly pops open. That definitely grabs his attention. Back at the apartment, Kai-han starts guessing. He points out how weird it is that the photo features a fatherly figure. Yet there are 0 signs of any older man actually living in the apartment. He figures it is one of 2 things. Either they live apart or his dad is gone. Thinking he is a genius, Kai-han pushes the theory even further to get a reaction. Dawon snaps and screams at him to shut his mouth, but that reaction says it all. Now completely sure that Dawon's father is dead, Kai-han gets a wicked look in his eyes. He unleashes a brutal flurry of punches, mocking him the entire time. Dawon struggles to fight back, desperately demanding to know where they took his photo. Kai-han easily blocks his swing and punches him right back. He casually lets slip that the picture is sitting at their hideout in Qingyangdong. He knows Dawon has absolutely no clue where that even is. So he mockingly offers to take him there, but he is definitely not playing nice. He is totally focused on following Ju Ryong's orders to the letter. That means beating Dawon into a pulp and dragging his body back. They trade heavy blows until Dawon lands a clean kick and follows up with a combo. Kaihyun smiles darkly, loving the challenge, but then he makes a huge mistake. He trips right over the edge of the bed and crashes onto the mattress. Dawon wastes no time. He looms over him with a fist cocked back. He demands the exact location of the gang's secret hideout. But Kaihyun just laughs, making some weird comment about their awkward position. He suddenly springs back up and starts tossing Dawon around the room. As he lunges forward to end it, Dawon catches him completely off guard. He counters with a devastating falcon drop, slamming him hard onto the floor. Bleeding from his nose and mouth, Kaihyun struggles back to his feet. He ducks the next swing, trips Dawon, and shoves him into the bathroom. He lands another brutal blow to his face, ready to finish this for good. Kaihyun grabs a shower head and wraps the hose tightly around Dawon's neck. Squeezing hard, he smugly promises Dawon he will wake up at the hideout. But before he can pass out, Dawon finds a way to fight back. He turns on the tap and blasts Kaihyun right in the face with boiling hot water. Escaping the chokehold, Dawon warns him that the kid gloves are officially off. He is totally done playing games and wasting his breath on this guy. Dawon grabs his head, rams it into the toilet, and demands the location. He warns him that this is his absolute last chance to talk. Elsewhere, Ju Ryong, the gang's big boss, is getting extremely frustrated. Despite throwing a massive force at him yesterday, the intruder got away. And today, Kaihyun still has not reported back from Dawon's apartment. Sick of these constant failures, Ju Ryong violently snaps at his bald henchman, demanding to know how much longer he must wait. He brings up the broken promise to drag the intruder in personally. Shaking, the underling begs for mercy, but Ju Ryong warns that if things screw up again, he will handle it himself and end the target. Suddenly, the main door crashes open. Dawon steps directly into the enemy headquarters all alone. Ju Ryong immediately pieces together what this means. Kaihyun has been utterly defeated. Stunned by the realization he cannot even move, Dawon looks around and sees a shattered frame on the dirty floor, his precious family photo. Seething, he demands to know where the photo went. Ju Ryong just grins and displays a crumpled paper ball, slowly flattening it out to show the image. He reads the handwritten message on the back, "To be beside my beloved family." He laughs, calling the message worthless. Dawon has officially had enough. He demands his photo back, but Ju Ryong smirks and says he is not in the mood, slowly ripping the paper. Instantly, Dawon kicks into high gear. A massive aura explodes around him as he ignites his booster to strike. He rockets forward, planting a heavy kick directly into Ju Ryong's smug face. The crumpled photo slips from his fingers, flying high. The bald henchman watches in absolute horror as Dawon stands over their leader, declaring that this is just the beginning. Right then, a flash of Dawon's childhood memory plays out. A warm voice asks him to smile for the camera. It was that very family portrait captured during a rare, precious day out. Even though his parents were constantly working, those rare moments meant everything to him, and when he felt lonely, his dad would assure him his mom really wanted to be there but had no choice. Because of his father's demanding job, the boy barely got to see him, but whenever they finally did, his father always promised to dedicate an entire day to him to make up for it. Those fleeting hours were magical, showing Dawon how much his father also longed for more simple family time. Now that precious dream only lives in his memories, which explains why his anger is boiling over now. Look closely, he is seething at the absolute monster who destroyed it. Fueled by that raw fury, Dawon unleashes a brutal barrage, completely overwhelming the gang leader. Even after his booster fades, he maintains the pressure. Leaving everyone shocked, including the bald henchman, he is actually pushing the legendary boss monster onto the defensive. Then, in a flash, Dawon delivers a heavy stun smash, slamming Jurayong hard onto the concrete. But the boss is not done. From the floor, he grabs Dawon's collar, growling that throwing a tantrum over a silly piece of paper is a death sentence. Still pinned down, he throws a heavy punch that sends Dawon crashing back into the wall. Dawon recovers instantly, launching himself straight back toward Jurayong, shouting that his only mistake was underestimating him, but Jurayong intercepts him midair, delivering a savage rib shot that sends him rolling away. He hits the dirt while Dawon struggles to stand. Jurayong reminds him that he brought this fight to Cheongmyeongdong and he will find out the reason for this assault later. Focusing back on the duel, Dawon gathers his burning aura and leaps into a falcon drop, but Jurayong grabs his leg midair, declaring that Dawon must now pay for his foolishness, and slaps him hard across the face. The bald spectator breathes a sigh of relief, convinced that Jurayong cannot lose, but that confidence is short-lived. Refusing to yield, Dawon uses his only free limb, his right leg, delivering a direct kick straight to Jurayong's face. It hits hard. Dawon proudly calls it a critical hit. Jurayong, however, recovers instantly and completes his sentence, muttering that a single lucky hit is not enough. He charges forward, flattening Dawon with a vicious elbow strike. Marching forward, Jurayong mockingly asks if he got cocky after beating some minor punks. He buries Dawon under heavy furniture, coldly declaring, "I am Cheongmyeongdong." Just then, the bald guy finally receives Dawon's identity profile. He announces that Dawon is an 18-year-old named Ha Dawon, currently part of the Gwanak-gu Bully Council, serving as Boromai's representative. He realizes they suspect Cheongmyeongdong of stepping right into Gwanak-gu territory, sending Dawon to dig up proof. Jurayong, seeing this turn, decides to keep Dawon around. He commands his bald lackey to lock him up until tomorrow, when he will decide his final fate. Suddenly, Jurayong hears a heavy thud echoing right behind him. Dawon is somehow standing again. At this point, Jurayong does not see determination anymore, only pure stupidity. Honestly, it is starting to look that way. Dawon, however, knows exactly what he is facing. He is fully aware that Jurayong is faster, stronger, and completely out of his league. No matter how hard he struggles, he cannot win this way. Regretting how his emotions took over in a blind rush, Dawon suddenly remembers the rusted key he obtained, wishing he had arrived just 5 minutes later. Instead, and just like that, the system announces 24 hours have passed. The rust is gone. Exactly 1 day ago, Dawon was limping upstairs, barely surviving after crushing 3 elite monsters and over 100 regular beasts. For that struggle, he received a rare reward, the basilisk solution, a substance that cleans rusted metal within 24 hours. Curious about the mysterious key he pulled from the wheel, he had submerged it in the liquid, desperately hoping for a miracle. Now holding the completely transformed key, Dawon takes a bold step forward. Jurayong thinks he has lost his mind, but he is not bluffing. He holds the hidden, blood-covered key, a unique item that massively boosts his critical strike rate dramatically. That old passive 1% chance is now multiplied by 100. This instantly ignites his body, flaring up with a dark red aura. Elsewhere, Han Yusung updates Kim Yi-jin, the Shumdang deputy, on Dawon's wild mission to dismantle Cheongmyeongdong completely alone. Yi-jin immediately calls it impossible. Sure, Dawon is strong, but fighting someone like Jurayong is impossible. He stands no chance. Jurayong's body is built like a dragon, abnormally tough and powerful. The monster took control of the entire school when he was just a freshman. Jin cannot even picture Dawon defeating someone that monstrous, but Yun Song just smiles. With a sly grin, he reminds him that Dawon always shatters expectations. Classic plot armor at its absolute finest. Back in the hideout, Dawon steps forward. A deadly crimson aura glows around him, leaving Juryong completely stunned. He asks if Dawon still fails to see the massive gap. Dawon stays silent. He just throws a punch. Juryong blocks it and begins to laugh, but then Dawon's fist smashes clean through his defense, sending him crashing into the wall. A full-on critical hit. The massive impact rattles Dawon's arm, but he stands tall. Watching from the side, the bald underling stands frozen in absolute shock. He just saw the legendary dragon of Chungmyeong-dong get absolutely rocked. Dawon looks down and says it is time to test how tough his body really is. That blood-colored key has boosted his critical hit rate by 100 times. He has 7 hits total. Now, this fight becomes a brutal endurance match. Refusing to let Dawon walk away, Juryong orders his bald underling to lock the door. He asks Dawon if he knows why they call him the legendary dragon. He leaps forward, yelling that he has no equal. Dawon does not waste time. He just lands another bone-crushing critical hit, 5 remaining. Covered in blood, the dragon rises once more, glowing with dark energy. Now fighting for real, Juryong vows to make him regret everything. But when their fists collide, Juryong's left arm goes completely numb. He cannot believe this. His mind refuses to accept what is happening. Dawon does not slow down. Punch after punch, he beats Juryong into the ground. He handles him like a rag doll. The bald underling watches in complete shock. He cannot wrap his head around this. Juryong was supposed to be untouchable. The pride of Chungmyeong-dong, born with a perfect body, an unbeatable monster. Yet here he is, broken on his knees. In desperation, Juryong begs. He offers Dawon a deal, inviting him to join forces against the council. He promises him half of everything: wealth, power, and high status. Dawon extends his hand, only to unleash a brutal slap across his face. Talk about getting humbled. That single strike strips away any remaining dignity he had. Completely shattered, the fallen dragon actually begins to beg for mercy. He even apologizes for ripping the family photo, but it is too late. Dawon unleashes his final critical hit, crushing Juryong's face with all his power. The impact sends him bouncing off the floor. It is over. Standing over him, Dawon mutters that he brought this entirely on himself. You make the wrong choices, you pay the price. He retrieves the photo. The bald underling scrambles over, kneeling to hand back all the stolen gear. He whimpers that he was just a victim, blaming everything on Juryong. But Dawon is not buying the sob story. Just following orders is no excuse. If he was too terrified to refuse, he should have simply run away. The bald guy bows deeply, pretending to agree, but it is pure act. Deep down, his teeth are grinding. He already prepared for this outcome. Even if the odds of the dragon losing were basically 0, he had backup plans. Just in case, before Dawon even arrived, Baldy secretly summoned every remaining member of Chungmyeong-dong to their hideout. He is certain Dawon is completely exhausted now, and his trap is about to be sprung. The second the door swings open, Baldy thinks Dawon is finished. Oh, he has absolutely no idea. Dawon just leveled up big time, and completing that quest boosted his stats massively. Attack, defense, agility, and spirit all shot up by hundreds. He even unlocked a hidden skill. His aura now flares with unstoppable power. Dawon already knows what is waiting outside, but it does not bother him anymore. 2 years ago, Juryong laughed at the idea of building profits or following counsel structures. To him, only raw strength mattered, especially for teens under 18. And with his dragon-like physique, he just crushed everyone beneath him and made them work for him. But now he is sitting there, beat up and broken, still delusional enough to say he can keep fighting all day. Suddenly, a calm voice interrupts him. A man wearing a cross steps in, completely unimpressed with Juryong's tough talk. When Juryong demands to know who he is and where Dawon went, the man simply says Dawon is already long gone. Moments earlier, when Dawon opened that door expecting a swarm of enemies, he found. This exact man instead, thinking he was a threat, Dawon went in for a punch, but the guy quickly clarified he is actually an ally, someone from the Bully Council headquarters. Meet Choi Sunyi, Dawon's senior. Dawon, confused, asks why someone from headquarters is here. Choi Sunyi breaks the news. Dawon has passed the test. Beating Juryong was the final condition. The rest, Baldy and the gang, do not even matter. Choi Sunyi does bring up one issue though. Technically, Dawon got help from Boramai and did not exactly solo the entire cleanup, but despite that, he still passed, even with some points deducted. Dawon does not react much. He just asks if he can go home. Now Choi Sunyi gives him the green light and says he is looking forward to seeing what Dawon does next. As Dawon walks away, Choi Sunyi casually warns him not to trip. He left something on the stairs. Dawon makes his way back down, carefully stepping over the mountain of unconscious gang members covering the steps. Later, Juryong regains consciousness and finds himself face to face with Choi Sunyi. Looking at the wreckage, Baldy realizes they are finished. He wonders in terror why yet another absolute monster is standing here. Choi Sunyi walks through the defeated hideout, looking at the mess Juryong made. He mocks this so-called dragon's nest. According to legend, dragons hoard shiny treasures, and sure enough, under the school building, there is a massive stash of stolen goods. Choi Sunyi taps the treasure bag and says it would have been tough to locate without Dawon. Everything Juryong stole from council territory is all going back now. The so-called dragon snaps, yelling that everything in the hoard is his. He gets up and glares at Choi Sunyi, demanding how he dares take what Juryong claims to have earned with strength. But Choi Sunyi does not flinch. He calmly mocks Juryong, saying that being called a dragon does not make him one. Even weak crows collect shiny junk, and that is all. This is just a flashy pile built by a loud bird screaming on someone else's turf. Up on the rooftop, Choi Sunyi makes it clear that the Bully Council only spared Juryong because he was not worth their time, but that ends today. Meanwhile, Dawon heads back home and checks the bathroom, but the braided guy is already gone. Smiling softly, he places his torn family photo back into its frame, quietly whispering an apology. The whole place is still a complete disaster, but he decides to clean up the mess after getting some sleep. The next day at school, everything feels strange and unfamiliar, almost as if he has been gone for years. Jiwoo reminds him that he was only out for a couple of days with the flu, but then completely out of the blue, Ara marches up and asks him out on a date. After school, right then, Dawon's entire brain completely short-circuits. He assumes it is a sweet reward for surviving so much madness, but the truth is far less romantic. Min actually wanted to hang out with Jiwoo, but was too shy to ask him directly, so she dragged Ara and Dawon along to make things easier. As a double date, honestly, Dawon does not mind. Just being near Ara makes him incredibly happy. But as they hang out, a few older students nearby recognize Dawon as that pathetic game runner. They cannot believe a loser like him is with their school angel, Ara. One of the guys, already bitter from being rejected by Min earlier, glares at Dawon. You just know he is cooking up major trouble. The crew head inside to the arcade sports zone. Jiwoo shows off with an incredible triple arrow shot, totally blowing Min away. Hoping to match that energy, Dawon gets ready to show off too. Then Ara grabs a bow to give it a shot, but her grip slips and her arrow flies right past Dawon's face. She definitely does not need any archery lessons, so he quickly suggests heading to their next stop, a VR zombie shooter. Locked and loaded, they start blasting away at digital zombies. Ara gets so into the game that she starts jumping around with her headset on, accidentally bumping right into Dawon. The poor guy completely freezes, genuinely believing a zombie just grabbed him. It should have been scary, but instead he is just completely short-circuiting again. Later, inside a creepy escape room, Min tightly clings to Jiwoo whenever she gets scared, rapidly bringing them closer together. Meanwhile, Ara finds a tiny crawl space to search for clues, only to discover Dawon has already squeezed inside. Trapped face to face in extremely tight quarters, things get even worse when she tries to back out, slips again, and falls right on top of him. Dawon, red as ever, cannot even look her way. You honestly have to wonder if he is about to spontaneously combust. Right now, Dawon feels like he is finally living the normal high school life he always dreamed of. No bullies, no fights, just peace. But that vibe does not last long. A bunch of arrogant seniors from Soon Benam crash the karaoke room and start causing chaos. The leader of the pack, a guy from the dance crew, immediately zeroes in on the girls and hands Dawon a bank card, ordering him to go buy some water. Aura tries to step in, but Dawon silently gets up without resisting. This makes the senior smirk, absolutely amazed that a total loser gets to hang out near Aura. He is determined to completely humiliate him. When Dawon tries to head out, the guy blocks his way, stretching out his leg to show off, mocking Dawon for just standing there. He clearly wants to break his spirit in front of Aura and prove who is boss, but instead of flinching, Dawon just pushes the guy's leg aside and calmly walks out. The senior is left completely stunned. Min is stunned, assuming Dawon is just nervous. While he is gone, those annoying upperclassmen keep bothering the girls, even pushing sketchy candy onto Aaron. Sweets. When Dawon returns, he grabs the senior by the wrist, stopping him instantly. He glares at the guy with absolute disgust. The older student is shocked, thinking Dawon is just putting on an act, and starts mocking him again, warning him to know his place. Then, the unexpected happens. Dawon flips the senior and slams his head into the table, leaving everyone speechless. Humiliated, the senior threatens Dawon, asking if he can actually handle this. Dawon calmly responds that he does not know what is coming next, but he can handle whatever is right in front of him. See, before this, the senior was bragging about how easy it is to control kids like Dawon and Arden. Now he is the helpless one, begging for mercy. When his friend tries to step in, Dawon stops him with one cold look. That deadly glare scares the guy off. The pathetic senior yells for help. He cannot accept that the kid he looked down on just beat him. Just as the senior threatens to ruin Min's life in the dance club, another upperclassman shows up, clapping mockingly and teasing his pathetic friend. He mocks the senior for losing. Instantly, he lunges forward. The newcomer grabs a heavy karaoke remote and swings it right at Dawon. But Dawon punches straight through it, sending the guy crashing into the screen. Even Dawon is shocked. The guy flew way too far. He did not mean to hit that hard. He needs to control his newly boosted stats. But get this, more seniors rush into the room, looking for a fight. Every single one of them gets knocked out cold. Dawon is struggling, trying to hold back. Game over. Xiun steps in to stop him. Dawon looks around. It is over. The senior is completely out. Managing this insane raw strength is not going to be easy at all. Later, walking back, Dawon worries. Did he actually go too far? His friends quickly reassure him that those jerks got exactly what they deserved. Since they share a dance club, Aaron tells Min to warn them of trouble. With his pride completely shattered, the beat-up senior goes whining to HWI Sue. But the vice president shuts him up with a single, icy stare. The senior instantly backs down. Then Jin Wan, a massive third-year, chimes in. He insists they cannot let this slide. Retaliation is coming. A sharp-tongued, green-haired girl named Hee-sun clings to HWI Sue, playfully suggesting they call in the targets. The entire club starts acting like they are running a strict military camp. They target Min first, but here is the crazy part. Before they even start, Dawon walks straight into their club room. The beaten-up senior starts trembling, pointing at him in sheer terror. The vice president demands Dawon step forward. The scared senior tries to act tough, but deep down he is panicking. HWI Sue actually climbs onto a chair to look down on Dawon, demanding to know why he is here. Dawon remains completely unfazed. He calmly asks who is in charge. This absolutely infuriates Jinwon. He flaunts his muscles under his jacket, swearing to beat the so-called delinquent. Dawon fires right back, claiming Jinwon actually looks like the real bully here. Hee-sun bursts out laughing, but Jinwon just doubles down on his threats. Just then, Hwi-Soo interrupts and asks what Dawon is holding in his hand. Dawon shows them a weird candy that the senior dropped back in the karaoke room. Instantly, the mood in the room shifts as everyone grows dead serious. Dawon notes it is the kind of cheap drug known for completely frying people's brains. Even the sarcastic green-haired girl goes totally silent. Jinwon asks what he wants. Jinwon demands to know his plans. Observing their reactions, Dawon gets his answer. He realizes that Senior did not act alone, and everyone starts acting incredibly tense. Suddenly, things feel like a crime drama. Hwi-Soo sits down and asks if Dawon came here to threaten them, but Dawon says he is just returning it. He even promises to keep completely quiet about finding the illegal candy. This confuses Hee-sun, who demands to know why he would even return it. Dawon calmly explains that it is because they are seniors to his friend Min. As Dawon walks away, Hwi-Soo realizes this was never a friendly visit. It was a blatant, silent warning. Furious, Hwi-Soo snaps at the senior. He scolds the guy for ignoring simple instructions and getting himself caught. Calling him a complete idiot, Jinwon starts roughing up the guy in anger. Meanwhile, Aaron and Min talk about everything that went down yesterday. Knowing that Senior has a terrible reputation with girls, Min is deeply worried. Her mind keeps racing with terrible thoughts of what might have happened without Dawon. She remembers how bravely he stood up for them, feeling incredibly relieved. At school, Dawon quietly watches over the girls from a high window. He knows fighting the third years further might only make life worse for Min. To protect her, he decides to let things drop, hoping they blow over. But things get nasty later that day when he finds his desk completely trashed. A bloody cross is drawn on top. He and Jihoon wonder who did this. Classmates whisper that the desk was destroyed while they were at physical education. Then Dawon notices his backpack is gone. Meanwhile, in the gym, Hwi-Soo is busy mocking Dawon, laughing at the idea that anyone would feel threatened. While Jinwon worries Dawon might report them, the vice president scoffs. He knows Dawon is not the type to run and tattle to teachers. Instead, Hwi-Soo plans to target him relentlessly through a secret group. He wants to keep tormenting him until he breaks, but Jinwon wonders what if he fights back. Hwi-Soo simply tears open the packet. He suggests a darker solution, wondering if there is something more going on. Min has been extremely tense and determined to handle this matter all alone. Meanwhile, Min rushes to the dance club for practice. She apologizes for being late, but Hee-sun immediately snaps at her. She calls her crazy for making excuses and blames her for everything. Hee-sun declares that the seniors have been way too soft lately. No more slacking off. From now on, anyone who objects can leave. Min tries to defend herself, but Hee-sun cuts her off, demanding she change. Right at that moment, the boys' dance club suddenly arrives. They expected a normal practice session in the auditorium, just like Hee-sun told them, but plans changed. Instead, she plays it off as a mistake, inviting them to stick around and watch the girls. She even asks for their feedback, which seems like a lucky break for the boys. Yet her mood is completely unstable, making Min freeze up since she hasn't changed clothes yet. Hee-sun glares at her with a crazed look, snapping at her to move faster. Right at that moment, Hwi-Soo kicks off his plan, wearing a dark grin on his face. He declares that it is time to dry them out, just as Dawon finds his missing bag. It is stuffed inside a toilet, marked with a red cross. Suddenly, Dawon receives a quest called Invisible Danger, warning him of hidden threats nearby. To survive, he must defeat every single one of them. Absolutely furious that things have gone this far, he swears to crush them all. A year ago, Min joined Xiun and Hee-sun. She barely survived her first day, ending up in tears beside Aaron. The poor girl was terrified of surviving with her timid nature. Aaron comforts her, suggesting she join a club to build up some confidence. He mentions the dance club, but as Min approaches the club room, doubt hits hard. She turns to leave, but a senior stops her, gently asking if she is a freshman. It turns out that senior is Hee-sun, who seemed incredibly kind and warm back then. She was so soft-spoken, which is nothing like the person she is today. Honestly, the contrast between her then and now is completely mind-blowing. She barks orders at Min without a second thought. Then her little dog, Ross, suddenly runs in. Her entire mood flips as she skips out on practice. She leaves entirely, leaving Min shocked but highly relieved. At least she gets a well-deserved break. Meanwhile, the cruel pranks on Dawon keep coming day after day. Even though the attacks change, one specific detail always remains the same. That red X is everywhere, even when Dawon is hit while sitting with Jihoon. Splattered by a milk carton, his friend Jihoon urges him to confront the club. He knows they are behind it, but he refuses. Without concrete proof, confronting them is completely useless right now. Besides, his real focus is clearing the mysterious invisible danger quest first. He needs to deal with the annoying underlings before taking on the leaders. Dawon tells Jihoon to look after Min, while the milk-throwing bully watches them. He snaps a quick picture from afar to prove his prank was a success. Expecting a sweet candy reward, he suddenly notices Dawon left his phone behind. The phone lies right there on the bench, while Hwi gloats elsewhere. He is highly pleased with how well his latest little scheme went down. Those cheap candy packets give him total control, but he knows Dawon is plotting. There is no way Dawon stays quiet for long, get ready, because things are shifting. At the court, the dance club lackeys brag about their successful pranks. They count up all the earned candy, just as the milk thrower joins them. He waves Dawon's phone in the air, bragging about finding it on the bench. But as he daydreams of unlocking even more candy rewards, a hand grabs him. Dawon holds his wrist tight. He left that phone behind as bait. The main culprit, Dawon whispers to avoid the face to keep the teachers from spotting the injuries before landing a brutal body shot that sends him flying straight across the court, coughing up blood, as the broken bully lies on the ground bleeding out from the impact. Dawon glares at the remaining thugs and coldly notes that their cowardice reminds him of his own past, back when Dawon was constantly tormented, leaving deep internal scars. This exact situation brings back those dark days, but this time, everything is different. He is no longer the defenseless victim. Now he gets to return the favor. After wrecking the latest batch of lackeys, he coldly tells them to clear out, calling it their early dismissal. He has had enough. After handling them, he locks his sights onto Hee-su. Earlier, when Dawon returned to the bench to grab his phone, he noticed a red letter X drawn on the wood, proof he was being followed. Right then, he spotted the creep behind the sick prank, his face twisted into a manic grin. Dawon muttered to himself that he finally found his target. After throwing the guy like a rag doll, he left the remaining gang members frozen in terror. They simply could not believe what a single punch did to him. Right then, every phone buzzed with a message from Hee-su offering 10 candy packs to anyone who could bring Dawon down. Driven by pure desperation, the addicts charged forward, throwing everything they had. Dawon swung back, taking them down one by one, disgusted that candy turned people into feral beasts. Suddenly, one lunges with a blade, yelling that Dawon will not need to know how good the high felt because he would not survive to try it, but Dawon had no intention of backing away. He grabbed the bastard's leg and hurled him high into the sky, following up with a crushing kick that ended the fight. Another thug, panicking in absolute desperation, grabbed a table, thinking bare fists were not enough. He hurled it straight at Dawon, but the beast caught it midair by one leg with Only one hand. After that, putting down the remaining junkies was incredibly easy. Before leaving, he ordered them to deliver a warning. Tell Hisu that he is coming. Suddenly, a voice called out and Dawon spun around. Ready to kill, but it was just a fragile-looking kid who apologized for the jump scare, begging him not to strike. This was the same guy who was looking after Hisun's dog earlier. He quickly explained that he, too, had once been branded with that red X mark for crossing the dangerous third. Years, he warned Dawon that Hisu was incredibly dangerous, begging him to stop before things got even worse. Dawon thanked him for the warning but made it clear that he was not backing down. After checking on Min through Jihan and telling his buddy to head home safely, Dawon set off to face his next target, but once he left, Jihan realized that Min had not replied in ages. Staring at the silent chat, a cold sweat broke out. Meanwhile, Dawon entered the dance club room, prepared to face Hisu. What he saw left him completely breathless. Hisu stood there like a mindless zombie, surrounded by heaps of empty candy wrappers. Dawon asked if he really ate all of those alone. Hisu, completely unhinged, screamed that it was all Dawon's fault for taking so long. His eyes wild and twitching, he shoved his face into Dawon's, screaming that he ate them out of sheer boredom. Hisu completely snaps, throwing himself at Dawon with absolute, unhinged fury. He screams that he cannot feel a single thing unless he is high, claiming sobriety just leaves him empty, with blood dripping down his face. Dawon suddenly vanishes and a voice echoes, asking Hisu what he is doing in front of a mirror. Realizing he has shattered the glass and cut his own hands, the addict stares blankly, admitting he has already lost his mind. Dawon suddenly appears behind him, grabs his head and slams him straight into the floor. Standing over him, he coldly asks if he feels awake now. Hisu remains face down on the ground, his madness finally quieted, at least for now. Meanwhile, a bit earlier, Jihan walks with Min and compliments her dedication to dancing despite her shy nature. Blushing, Min listens as Jihan opens up about wanting to overcome his own timid personality. He shares a story about attending a seminar and hearing someone talk about autosuggestion, a way of repeating positive affirmations to push the mind and body in a stronger direction. Inspired by this, Jihan feels highly motivated and even notices that his feelings for Min are actually being returned, but as he gets ready to leave class later, one of Min's worried friends approaches him. She reveals a secret Min has been hiding. She is being bullied in the dance club constantly. The older members, especially Hisun, have been treating her horribly. Even though Min begs her to stay quiet, she cannot stand by anymore. She admits that Min was cornered alone by Hisun. After today's class, Jihan, already worrying about Min ignoring his texts, grips his phone in pure anger. Elsewhere in the city, Yoonsung, a leader from another branch of the Bully Alliance, meets with Choi Suni, their main intelligence handler. Sitting together in a quiet cafe, Suni reveals he discovered some highly suspicious figures in the financial records of the Noondong group, the crew handing out that special candy. He asks Yoonsung to investigate what they are doing in secret. Picking up an empty wrapper nearby, Yoonsung heads out to get answers. Over at the dance studio, Min's situation turns absolutely brutal. Bound and completely helpless, she is struck by Hisun, who grabs her hair and demands to know why she stayed despite all the warnings and threats. As Min breaks down crying and tries to explain, Hisun suddenly exposes the real reason for her hatred. She despises everything about Min, that shy, awkward, beautiful face, and how she always receives attention, care, and love from everyone. Blinded by insecurity and jealousy, Hisun confesses how much she hates her own body. She wishes to be slim and attractive like Min, but that bitterness morphs into cruel violence. Desperate to feel loved, Hisun turns to those dangerous weight loss appetite-suppressing candies, perfect for losing weight. With them, she believes she will finally be pretty and get the love she craves. But Addiction creeps in. Over time, the candy completely consumes her, leaving only a hollow skeletal face hidden beneath layers of makeup, now blaming her condition and obsession entirely on Min. Heesun screams that it is unfair she had to suffer. Laughing maniacally, she tries to force-feed the deadly candy directly to Min. Insisting they must do this together. Right then, Jahan bursts into the room and grabs Heesun's wrist, sending the candy crashing to the floor. After checking that Min is all right, he turns to the senior, demanding answers. What does she think she is doing? Heesun struggles, screaming at him to let go. Suddenly, Jinwoo shows up and punches Jahan hard enough to send him flying, mocking him as pathetic for laying hands on a girl. Jinwoo vows to crush him completely, but Jahan instantly bounces right back up, launching a swift flurry of martial arts. He opens with a flying taekwondo kick that Jinwoo blocks, but Jahan flows into capoeira, flipping midair and striking Jinwoo's shoulder. Heesun warns her partner, but Jahan is relentless, shifting instantly into a boxing combo. Jinwoo is impressed by Jahan's skills but still mocks him. No martial arts can beat sheer size and brute power. He proves it by slamming Jahan with a massive, devastating punch that throws him to the ground. Heesun, acting terrified, asks Min if she really called Jahan her friend, playing the helpless victim. While Min screams out for Jahan, Heesun tells Jinwoo to help hold the girl down and force her mouth open. Jinwoo steps up, but Jahan stands up again, slamming his fingers hard against his throat. He recalls his academy teacher, warning him never to use mind control, a dangerous technique that unleashes a person's deepest, darkest rage. The master said it should only be used for inner peace, not to drive oneself mad, but with no other choice left. Jahan snaps. Jinwoo begins to sweat under that cold stare and gets offered one final warning to back off. With all restraints gone, Jahan unleashes his full power, promising to break Jinwoo completely. He's not the peaceful kid anymore, and trust me, he's done holding back. Meanwhile, for Pihoi, everyday life had become completely boring. Whether watching funny videos, dancing, or bullying, nothing excited him until he discovered the candy. That intense rush was exactly what he needed, and now, after being slammed to the ground by Dawon, Hisu slowly stands, blood dripping down his face. Trembling with sick joy, he screams that this is the ultimate thrill, but Dawon is done playing, mocking the senior's dramatic return. Dawon executes a brutal falcon drop that smashes Hisu back to the floor. Standing over him, Dawon tells him to just stay down and begins walking away. He thinks the quest is complete now, but then a new prompt flashes. Henchman defeated. Confused, he realizes Hisu was not the main boss, just a low-level pawn. Suddenly, his phone rings with a restricted number. The voice on the other end knows exactly who he is, mentioning that being Boram Idong's representative made Hisu too easy to defeat. Realizing he is talking to the mastermind, Dawon receives a surprise offer to meet. Meanwhile, back at the gym, Jahan is absolutely unhinged. Locked in a fierce, mind-controlled clash with Jinwoo, Heesun screams at Jinwoo to take this seriously, while Min watches in absolute shock, overwhelmed by everything unfolding. Jinwoo charges forward, demanding some respect, but Jahan just grins. He recalls his martial arts master, once teaching him that honor is more critical. Jahan once asked his teacher if a smaller fighter could ever beat someone bigger. Different weight classes exist for a reason, his teacher explained. But throw away all your honor, and anything might just be possible. Jahan does exactly that, tossing aside every single shred of decency. He spits right in Jinwoo's face to create an opening, then lands a brutal elbow strike to the neck. Even though Jinwoo counters with a heavy blow, Jahan laughs through the blood. That grin signals something far worse is coming. With all limits gone, Jahan brutally grabs Jinwoo's mouth and starts to stretch his jaw open with his fingers, completely breaking all limits. No rules now, he is surviving like in those ancient, primitive times. Driven by instinct and pushing his body through self-induced mind control. Jihan reaches a level of savage power that normal people never tap into. He delivers a devastating headbutt and kicks Jinwoo's limp body straight into Heesun, silencing her for good, gasping for air, his wild and crazed expression slowly softens. "See, I win," he mutters as he starts returning to his normal self. He rushes to untie Min, who stands in absolute shock. Meanwhile, Dawon reaches the hideout of the real boss, looking around the dimly lit place. He mutters that bad guys always love hiding in the dark. He spots a shape covered by a cloth and pulls it back, expecting a person. But it is just a mannequin with a red X on its forehead. Suddenly, liquid sprays from the X, soaking Dawon. A voice declares it LX7, a drug 10 times stronger and more addictive than the candy. To Dawon's shock, the real villain steps out. It is the weak caretaker from before. With creepy calmness, he admits he prefers staying in the background, hiding behind others. It is just easier than getting involved. Dawon's body starts to tremble when the boss says he will treat him like the others, getting him hooked on drugs. As Dawon's vision blurs, the boss tempts him with unlimited drugs. Just follow orders. The boss briefly mentions Nam Hyung-dong and the Bully Council, but stops when he suddenly sees Dawon collapse right in front of him. But Dawon immediately stands back up and shakes it off. Expected worse, he feels fine. The boss panics, confused that Dawon is not affected. What he does not realize is that Dawon gained a hidden skill after defeating Troy, a light circulation skill that instantly removes any abnormal effects except for disease or physical damage. With his body glowing, Dawon confronts the boss and asks about Nam Hyung-dong, questioning his connection to the Bully Council. But for Dawon, none of that really matters anymore. This is the final battle. The chain quest activates, signaling danger and urging Dawon to defeat the boss. On the other side, the mastermind is so tired of being bullied like Kyuzo every day that he wishes for death. He even tries to hang himself, but fear stops him. Looking for a less painful way out, he stumbles upon something called Kami on a shady website, realizing it might be his way to survive instead. As Dawon rushes in to end it, the boss readies himself. Just as Dawon is about to land a punch, a puppy jumps between them, stopping the fight. Surprised, Dawon stands his ground as the boss gently lifts the puppy, calling him Ross. He says the poor thing hates being alone since its owner left. Then he asks a weird question. Does Dawon know how training works? Weak humans are just like dogs, easily conditioned to obey. They are conditioned to obey the strong, usually through brutal bullying. But can the strong be tamed too? Absolutely, with the right rewards. He recalls using sweet candy to buy Hu's loyalty in the past. That was how he built his entire system, starting with Ross. In exchange for sweets, he recruited the dance club vice president. Soon everyone fell in line. Dawon calls him a total creep. Playing God with people, the boss just smirks and pulls a whistle. He knows Dawon is strong, but only against normal humans. Suddenly, a pack of highly trained attack dogs surrounds him. Dawon hates hurting animals, but he has to defend himself here. With a sudden speed boost, he blurs around the area, knocking them out as gently as possible, one by one. He takes a light bite, but easily handles the endless waves. When his speed boost fades, only one massive beast remains. Dawon quickly handles the beast, tying it up with his hoodie strings. He turns back to the mastermind. Got anything else left in you? If not, it is Dawon's turn. The boss freezes in terror. The little puppy tries to comfort him, but he throws it aside. Dawon snaps, taking out anger on an innocent dog, sickening. While Dawon checks the pup, the boss runs away screaming threats. But talk about instant karma, he trips right over a dummy. In the fall, he gets accidentally dosed with the LX7 drug. Rolling on the floor, he rants about making everyone obey. To his drugged, terrified eyes, Dawon looks like a demon. Dawon delivers a heavy beating, no more candy, just pain. He sends him flying with a punch. The chain quest finally completes. Right on cue, Yunseong arrives at the scene. Dawon asks what he wants. Yunseong drops a massive bomb. There's a traitor inside the Bully Council working with the boss. He needs Dawon's help to track down this hidden enemy. To Yunseong, none of this was ever random. Dawon mentions Nam Hyung-dong. Is he the traitor? Yunseong confirms it. This council fight is entirely different. It feels much deeper and way more dangerous than normal. Dawon chose to help Silim instead of funding the council. That choice will bring serious consequences to his loved ones. Yunseong prepares to arrest him. Suddenly, a smoke bomb explodes. Thick red smoke fills the room in an instant. A mysterious biker swoops in, grabbing the unconscious boss. He declares that the plan has already started before escaping. Leaving Yunseong completely puzzled, what could that warning even mean? A motorcycle speeds off right as they approach, leaving Dawon completely irritated. Someone actually rescued that glass's pervert. Later, the mastermind wakes up shivering. Inside an ice-cold bathtub, a harsh voice warns him not to keep him waiting. That intimidating voice belongs to Kim Ho-seong, a big boss from Nam Hyung-dong. Even dressed up like a real authority figure, the mastermind is shaking. With pure terror, realizing things just got worse, Ho-seong demands to know why. It was so tough to train just one simple headquarter dog. The senior blames a faulty drug, but Ho-seong shuts him down instantly. He wanted to secure the Boromai Dong representative first, but those plans are ruined. Now this useless senior will not be getting any more rewards. The mastermind begs desperately, but it only makes Ho-seong more annoyed. He coldly reminds the trembling senior, who is actually in charge here. Ho-seong points out that playing school boss made him forget his place. He orders his suited biker henchman to teach the senior a lesson. As Ho-seong walks away, agonizing screams echo through the empty room. Elsewhere, Arian hugs Min tightly, upset she was kept in the dark. Min reassures her friend, saying everything turned out fine in the end. She credits Jae-han, leaving Arian shocked to hear he can actually fight. Remembering his heroic moments, Min immediately turns into a blushing mess. She can only stutter about how scarily cool Jae-han really was. Arian instantly starts teasing her, sensing some major crush vibes here. Watching from a nearby school window, Dawon grins to himself. Jae-han approaches to ask what he is looking at, making Dawon turn. Dawon joins the group, relieved that things got resolved, but are they? That weird trio left the club, and the glasses guy vanished from school. Still, Dawon cannot shake off the cryptic words of that biker guy. He is especially bothered by the mention of a mysterious group. Elsewhere inside a pitch-black theater, a secret alliance is holding a meeting. An ominous leader notes that their timeline is moving far too quickly. This mastermind is Steven Siegel, the representative of Nam Hyung-dong. He laments that things would be different if their plans had succeeded. Specifically, if Seoin-dong had not been wiped out so rapidly. In Gang, the former representative of that faction, immediately gets very defensive. Ki Jin-ho, another former leader, quickly steps in to stop the bickering. He reminds the room that their fallen group sacrificed everything for this. They even burned down their own base to protect their secret files. They did it all to keep information from reaching the Bully Council. Kim Ho-seong coldly sneers, stating that a loser's sacrifice is completely worthless. Amidst the heavy tension, Yu Jinjin yawns and comments on the weather. Suddenly, a theatrical voice rings out and slices through the room. It belongs to Seong Moon, the incredibly flashy representative of Miss Hong-dong. He crushes a Rubik's Cube, saying there is no reason to argue. All that matters is the exciting future of their powerful council. In the dark, a grinning figure mutters that everything is heading towards one end as the plan accelerates. The Guanek Bully Council is going down. The projector in the room starts rolling. As the film plays, a man with tattooed hands declares the council's demise is officially underway. Meanwhile, Yun Seong is standing on the other side with Dawon desperately trying to decode what the biker meant by using the word "wis," while his immediate instinct is to connect it to Nam Hyungdong. He cannot rule out the idea that another group is pulling the strings. Yun Seong remembers the day Seoindong literally burned their own agency to hide something, admitting that it still deeply bothers him. As he connects the dots between those past sins and their current mess, Dawon just stands there listening silently, clearly looking completely overwhelmed by all these complicated twists. Yun Seong notes that Boramaidong does not have nearly enough manpower to handle everything alone, so he plans to recruit 2 surveillance agents from Silumdong, namely Shin Yi-min and Yuk Mansion. Since they have already crossed paths with Dawon, Yun Seong assumes it will be much easier to work together, but those 2 agents clearly feel incredibly awkward. After all, they once tried to push Dawon around, only to end up completely and utterly humbled. Yi-min sweats nervously while offering a shaky greeting, and Mansion quickly apologizes. Then, out of nowhere, Dawon cheerfully shouts how great it is to meet again and wraps his arms around them like best buddies. Not gonna lie, that grin looks absolutely terrifying. He is clearly ready to mess with them, asking Yun Seong to confirm he can use them however he wants for this mission, flashing a wicked smile as he tells them they are going to have some fun together. Meanwhile, rumors are spreading like wildfire about Dawon absolutely demolishing Pai Hoi and his dance club crew. At the cafeteria tables, some students are gossiping about whether this random second year has actually become a bully council officer. One guy just laughs the whole thing off, calling Dawon a pathetic errand boy who could never secure a high-ranking spot, but he gets stopped by Aaron, who instantly stands up for Dawon, declaring he is definitely not a loser and certainly not a bully. As Aaron walks away, the other students start whispering, wondering if there is something going on between her and Dawon. She heads over to sit with Min, who is incredibly shocked to see her normally quiet friend get this heated. Min asks if it is all because of Dawon. Aaron immediately blushes and stammers a denial, claiming she was just annoyed by the petty gossip. But then, nearby girls start talking about how insanely handsome Dawon is and how much they want to date him. Aaron gets flustered and accidentally drops food right onto her clean uniform. Seeing her freeze, Min smiles and teases her, saying she clearly has a massive crush on Dawon after all. Elsewhere, Dawon is grabbing lunch with Sihyun inside an incredibly packed restaurant, looking around at the crowd. He asks if these customers are even real. He wonders if their previous location was just terrible or if the food simply sucked, but he is told that is not it at all. The place is totally swamped because girls are flocking to catch a glimpse of a handsome new server with rose-pink hair. This server, arriving a bit late, turns out to be Sihi, and Dawon barely recognizes his new look. Dawon then shifts the conversation to ask about Kang Sihyun. Sihyun replies that he has skipped out today to focus on training. Dawon remembers how he had once talked about going on a solo journey to grow stronger. It turns out that Guy was dead serious about it. Shifting topics, Sihyun asks Dawon what it was he wanted to discuss with them, since he had previously teased having some big news. While on the phone, Dawon shares some crucial intel about Boramaidong. They are apparently teaming up with Silium Dong, hinting at another traitor. Someone besides C1 is selling them out, and nobody can predict what is next. But he still urges his crew to stay safe and watch their backs. Naturally, his serious warning gets ruined when they tease him about being overprotective. Sihi asks for a plan, but Dawon has other ideas. He tells them to stay put, convinced he can handle this solo. Elsewhere, the ruthless Kim Ho-seong sits reading the morning newspaper. He discusses the drug trade profit model with his main manufacturer. With things almost ready, Ho-seong demands it be finished immediately before checking his watch. He announces that the Gwanak-gu Bully Council is finally starting. At that moment, Dawon and Yun-seong arrive at the Namyongdong hideout. Yun-seong wants to lock down the area before doing anything else. Then they will hunt for evidence of a traitor and their master plan. He reminds Dawon of the massive risks, but the warning falls flat. Dawon knows that standing by would put all his friends in danger. Shaking off the tension, he jokes about pulling off a movie-style break-in. Yun-seong just sighs, amazed at how relaxed Dawon is during a crisis. Still, as they step closer, Dawon quietly admits he has no clue what to expect. Meanwhile, the tension is building elsewhere as someone asks Ho-seong if he is feeling anxious. He confidently laughs it off with ease. He completely denies it and flips the question back onto the heavily tattooed man nearby. This mysterious guy, sporting a terrifying hand tattoo, whispers that the real game is just beginning. He wonders if Ho-seong will eventually regret betraying the council. Annoyed by the question, Ho-seong snaps that regret is a luxury he cannot afford. Tossing the newspaper aside, he lets his deep frustration with the system boil over. He is sick of the council using absolute order just to exploit the districts. He flat out refuses to be their puppet, while the scarred man reveals a deeper secret. The council knows there is a rat, but they have no idea who. This calculated blind spot is designed to breed absolute chaos and paranoia. The goal is to tear the entire council apart from the inside out. He proudly claims that nobody can stop what is coming. Back at the hideout, Dawon finally reaches the front door. Since there is no key, he smashes it open with a devastating falcon drop. He yells for the junkies inside to show themselves, but his grand entrance is wasted. It is completely and utterly empty. Looking around at the chaotic mess, Dawon realizes they were manufacturing something highly toxic. Yun-seong wonders if the Namyongdong crew has already fled. This makes Dawon realize their enemies are far more clever than they look. They are highly adaptable, meaning the boys will have to start over from scratch. Yun-seong quickly points out an even bigger problem they are facing. They simply do not have time to keep chasing ghost leads, especially with other traitors lurking in the shadows. As Yun-seong stresses over how to expose them, Dawon drops a sudden question. Is Noxiong Didong connected to the Gwanak-gu Bully Council? The council, once Yun-seong confirms it, Dawon orders him to keep chasing. Specifically Namyongdong, he has another lead to investigate. Elsewhere, Shin Yi-min and Yuk Man-chun are still staked out near Noxiong. Didong acting on Dawon's strict orders from earlier. Dawon meets up with Yi-min and Man-chun in an open park. He playfully pushes them around, claiming his sharp instincts feel something is wrong. With Noxiong Didong, no real proof, but his gut is screaming. Yi-min explains how the Noxiong Didong business model actually works. They target helpless teenagers with incredibly shady small-time loans. First, they hit them with insanely high interest rates. If the victim refuses, step 2 kicks in with a threat. They demand a massive consultation fee, completely trapping them. Profit comes from forced loans and the absolute terror of failing to pay. Meanwhile, Yun-seong meets up with Choi Sun-yi. Sadly for Sun-yi, it is not at a maid cafe. Yun-seong brings up the Namyongdong raid and how another region fell quickly. A territory under the Gwanak-gu Bully Council got hit too. That specific spot had no active representative, making it highly vulnerable. The enemy is clearly picking off the weakest zones first. Yet Sun-yi does not seem too concerned about it. He figures things are fine with Yun-seong around, then asks about Dawon. Yun-seong explains that Dawon is currently looking into Noxiong Didong. That is Steven's turf, and Sun-yi notes a betrayal could be explosive. Steven is insanely strong and highly volatile, a total powder keg. Pissing him off means war. Meanwhile, Yi-min and Man-chun keep watch. Suddenly, someone knocks on Steven's car window asking for cash. It is Dawon trying to clear a quest called Cash and Rush. He literally needs to borrow money directly from Steven himself. The night before, Dawon lay in bed completely baffled by the task. Asking a total stranger for cash, targeting Steven seemed way too deliberate. The deeper he thought about it, the weirder it got. Ever since joining this council, he has been constantly fighting. And every single fight was triggered by some bizarre system quest. Every situation and outcome felt like it was guided by an invisible hand. This gets Dawon questioning who is actually pulling all the strings. Who is the mysterious administrator pulling the levers behind these quests? Standing right before Steven Jeggle, Dawon casually asks for 201. Steven stares at him like it is a bad joke, but Dawon is dead serious. Steven steps out of the car, towering over him with pure menace. He growls that Dawon is mocking him. Dawon looks totally blank. Steven flashes back. As a second grader, he transferred to a school in Korea. He spent years living abroad for his parents' jobs. He gathered his courage to introduce himself, but they just laughed. They mocked his name, his accent, and his entire existence. Despite being good-looking, his mixed heritage became fuel for cruel bullies. They mocked him for not fitting the fantasy image people had of mixed kids. Now grabbing Dawon by the collar, Steven says being ignored is his absolute pet peeve. He hates it so much that it actually makes him want to kill. Not wanting to trigger him, Dawon plays along, claiming he wants 20 million won. Not 200, joking that the more the merrier. Letting him go, Steven asks why. Dawon says the money is for a guaranteed Sherwin Sports bet online. If it hits, even 200 million won will feel like complete pocket change. Steven raises an eyebrow, noting he knows exactly who Dawon is. Since Dawon is the Bora Maidong representative, why ask a rival group for cash? Dawon explains that since his credit is absolute trash, it makes sense. It is safer to borrow from someone he is already somewhat familiar with, especially since they are technically on the same side. Steven points out they only handle small loans and starts heading back to his car. But then Dawon casually offers up his high-ranking representative status as collateral. Now watch, that leverage instantly changes the entire game. Steven knows Bora Maidong and Siliamdong are actively hunting down traitors right now. Namyangdong tried to recruit Dawon and failed, leaving him clean for now. Since there is no solid proof of any betrayal, Steven sees an opening. By manipulating Dawon, he could secure an even bigger position for himself. Suddenly eager to help, Steven confirms if Dawon wants as much cash as possible. He pulls together 50 million won and hands it over with a strict warning. There is a brutal 30% daily interest rate attached to this cash. Watching from the sidelines, Yi Min is absolutely stunned by this risky play. Dawon is acting as a decoy to draw all the heat onto himself. This gives Siliamdong agents the perfect opening to gather solid proof of betrayal. Yi Min still worries what happens if Dawon cannot pay back the massive loan. But Dawon leans in and whispers a secret that completely shocks his partner. A whole week passes, and Steven sits down with his crew to do the math. With interest, Dawon now owes a massive 150.5 million won. Steven stares at the crazy figure, furious that Dawon completely vanished without paying. For 3 straight days, Dawon has not picked up a single phone call. Steven swears he will recover every single cent, no matter what it takes. Meanwhile, a dangerous thug with a burn scar on his neck hits Dawon's house. Backed by a crew, this is Lee Jin-young, the deputy rep of Noxiongdong. Just as they begin to invade, a lone man steps up to block them. He demands to know what they are doing at his brother's place. He casually compliments their tteokbokki, calling it surprisingly tasty food. Clueless, they move toward him, only to get instantly slammed hard. Choking one thug out, he calmly announces he is switching to the spicy version now. This beast is and he is definitely not playing around. Flashback to earlier, where Dawon warned Si-young and Si-hee to stay safe and lay low. He insisted he would handle everything alone, but Si-young called him a massive buzzkill. She scolds him for trying to act like a cool, lone wolf hero. Bora Maidong is not nearly as weak as Dawon thinks it is. He needs to protect them. Standing tall, Si-hee declares he will not just sit by and let his brother shoulder this burden alone. He will fight too, leaving Dawon deeply touched. Si-hee notices Kang Si-hoon, who silently watches the entire scene unfold from afar. He grumbles at Si-hee to stop acting like he is already dead. Meanwhile, Dawon checks on him. He wonders if Si-hee is truly ready for real violence, knowing how much he hates fighting. But for Si-hee, this is all about keeping his loved one safe. And ultimately himself. Even grandfather would have told them to fight back. Si-hee says, casually talking about the old man like he is already dead. Back at the house, Lee Jin-young watches his men get absolutely thrashed by Si-hee and mutters that things are looking rough. He always preferred a much hotter kind of flavor, telling his men to hurry up. He reminds them that Dawon is their main target. Meanwhile, Si-hee stands completely surrounded but calm. He gives them one final warning to back off now. And of course, nobody listens. You just know this is about to end terribly. Left with no choice, Si-hee dives into the fight to shield the people he loves. As the thugs rush him in waves, they mock his dramatic lines, but he does not care. In fact, he embraces it, claiming his signature style is what makes him unique. One by one, he smashes through them with cheesy lines and bone-crushing punches. The thugs end up whining on the ground. Watching from the sidelines, Lee Jin-young is actually quite impressed, beginning to recognize something familiar in Si-hee's weird charm. Back in his school days, Lee was constantly tormented and isolated because of a visible burn scar on his neck. He never fit in, remaining isolated and mocked. But everything changed when he met Steven, a guy who never judged his looks or speech. Their crew built a fearsome reputation by beating down anyone who ignored them. Watching Steven fight like a complete beast back then, Lee was mesmerized. He once asked Steven where he learned to scrap like that. Turns out, Steven never had any real training. He just learned survival skills while living abroad, especially in highly hostile environments. And when Steven realized Lee had absolutely zero experience, he casually suggested that he pick up a weapon. After all, kids in the United States carry guns, so Lee started searching for a weapon. He ended up grabbing a literal soldering iron. Steven did not judge him. He just noted it strangely fit his vibe, which actually made Lee pretty happy. Cut back to the present, where Si-hee stands tall over Lee's defeated men, completely unapologetic about his quirks. Suddenly, Lee lunges forward, narrowly missing him. He grumbles that it was a total waste. He wanted to scorch his skin. Feeling a strange heat pass by, Si-hee looks confused until he spots the weapon, a smoking hot soldering iron. Lee is dead serious about this. He likes it hot. Lee swings the iron again, leaving painful, searing burn marks on Si-hee. But then, the atmosphere suddenly shifts. Si-hee's expression darkens, his aura turning completely cold. With fire blazing in his eyes, he mutters that things are finally getting warm. Meanwhile, over at the gang's underground parking garage, Steven readies his men for a debt collection run, prepared to go himself if Lee fails. But right at that moment, Dawon steps inside, carrying a massive, heavy bag. It looks like it is stuffed to the brim with cold, hard cash. Steven is highly skeptical. There is no way this kid paid back his massive debt so fast. Of internet coupons, before his target can react, Dawon punches straight through.